Thank you everyone who's online. Our first order of business tonight is to approve the agenda, which is going to take us a few minutes. I believe we have a quorum. Commissioner Nowak, Commissioner Simkowitz, Commissioner Elkins, Commissioner Horn, and Commissioner Duncan are here. Commissioner Davis is coming late, and Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt is unable to join us tonight. Motion on the floor is to approve the agenda with a number of amendments.
Ms. Tricia.
Yes. If you are just joining the meeting, please mute your microphones. Okay, we are deleting 2 items on the agenda. Letter to DDOT reflooding of Dale Carlia Parkway. We're also deleting the BZA for the Palisades Montessori. That will happen next month. We are adding 3 items to official business. This is going to be a full commission letter to the zoning commission regarding AU's statement regarding the West Seminary PUD. We are going to add the hazardous crosswalks on New Mexico near Horace Mann. We are also going to add a response to the BZA regarding the sidewalks and the Trail Pro cost estimate around those sidewalks. Under commission business, we are adding 2 items. We hope you will approve a letter already submitted to the zoning commission from Elkins and Duncan regarding the Wesley Seminary PUD and AU's statement around that. And we're going to add post office. Thank you very much. The post office box that the commission owns, we're going to make some changes there. We're also going to change the order around a little bit. Tonight, we are starting with Metropolitan Police doing their normal report, plus an enhanced report on crime and carjackings. We have a number of officers here. Thank you very much. And then we have 2 items where we've got members of the public and State Board of Education Goulet joining us. So our first item under official actions is going to be Washington Gas Pipes 3 letter. And then the second item is going to be the letter of support for State Board of Education resolution on the teachers union contract. Do I have a second?
Second, but I have a question. When are we doing the discussion on the crime? Is it going to be after the police report?
Yeah, we're doing it all. MPD is going to do their whole report first. So all of that will be at the beginning. Any other comments?
No.
All right, all those in favor? Great. The agenda is official, and I am going to turn the program over to Officer Anthony McAfee. Tony McAfee.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners, and good evening, everybody on Zoom. Good evening, and thanks for coming out to the meeting and inviting us as always. I'm Tony McAfee. I'm your traffic officer. I'm also your community kind of liaison officer for all your community meetings. We also have who's attending the meeting is Captain Haskis, who's going to talk about the carjackings following my presentation, and Sergeant Loveday and Sergeant Hubert, both of the crime suppression team, the 2nd District. I'm going to start off with the crime report for the last 30 days. We had 18 offenses. We had 3 robberies. I'm going to hold off on the robberies. Let Captain Haskis will revisit that, and we'll address that as soon as I complete my presentation. We had 3 burglaries last 30 days. 4600 block of Foxhall Crescent. An unknown subject entered the home by breaking out a 2nd floor rear door window, and he stole some jewelry. There was no lookout provided of the individual, and our detectives are still investigating that issue. The 2 other burglaries occurred at an office complex located at 4900 Mass Avenue inside 2 separate businesses. This occurred on November 17th. The good news, I have good news here about these two burglaries. Is Detective Nick Oliver, he's assigned to the 2nd District, has identified the suspect in both of those burglaries, and he will be making an arrest and closing out both those cases. So those cases will be closed. While we're on the topic of Detective Oliver, he also identified the individual. You may recall a couple months ago, we had somebody enter into some houses on Foxhall Road and entered into a home 2 times, same home on Macomb Street. Detective Oliver has identified that individual. In fact, that individual is currently incarcerated up in Montgomery County, and we're preparing an arrest warrant for Detective Oliver, preparing an arrest warrant for unlawful entry. So we closed those cases. Moving on to theft from autos, we had 8 of them. Okay. Every one of these involved backpacks, tools, or other personal items that were left in plain view. 4 of the vehicles had their windows broken out, and 3 of the vehicles were left unlocked. I'm just going to go out and give you the locations just so you know where these are occurring at, so you can be alerted to see something, say something, report it. The 8 locations were 4300 block of Westover Place, 4400 block of Hawthorne Street, 4700 block of Reservoir, 4400 block of Cathedral, 4900 Indian Lane, 5000 block of Macomb, and the 1500 block of Foxhall Road. Also, on another positive note in reference to our theft from autos, if you recall, about 90 days ago, our theft from autos actually spiked up to almost 30, and the crime suppression team over here, Sergeant Loveday and Sergeant Hubert's team, focused in on these areas. Officer Brian Murray, who's assigned to the CST, managed to track a stolen device in one of the vehicles, tracked this vehicle over to 14th Street to a business where he investigated further, and as a result, he arrested 2 individuals and closed out numerous theft from auto cases. Several of those cases were within PSA 205. And in fact, some of the items that were stolen were returned to their owners. So he did close out some cases. And a point that I want to make also, that these individuals committed other crimes in the city, and they went across the border in Montgomery County. Speaking about detecting the stolen property, is our person that's in charge of the.
Yes, Brad, can you pull up their presentation? And I'm going to get this notice off this computer here.
And if you could put on that PowerPoint, I want to talk about air tags and air tiles. Is that going to come right here?
Yeah, next slide.
Okay. And that way, whoever's watching, they can take these notes, okay? Air tags. What is an air tag? It's a small fob that can be tracked in real time. You can actually hide it in your jacket, a purse, and in this case, with all the carjacking incidents and the stolen cars we're going through, you can hide this fob inside your vehicle. I mean, it's really small. You can hide it under the car, somewhere where nobody will find it. They probably won't find it. If you lose, the air tags work off of the Apple iPhone. They don't work on the Androids. However, if you go into the iPhone, or it's the iPhone website, and then you log on your iPhone, you can go to a browser and then you can track it. But you can't do it with the Androids. I also recommend when you do that with your phone, you set the fob or the air tag into your phone. I recommend you do a second phone, somebody in your family, just in case your car and the phone is stolen. The good thing about these, you can purchase these air tags. I think one costs maybe about $25, and a set of them up to 80. You get them at Walmart. You can go online, Amazon, sell them. Why are these things so good? we just had, and I know, I'm pretty sure Captain Hassan's gonna talk about it, but say you are carjacked, or your car is stolen overnight. You call the police. When you call the 911 call taker, you're gonna wanna tell them that you have an AirTag and you can track your vehicle in real time. The dispatcher will send the car over their priority call, and at the same time inform the police officer that you have a tracking AirTag in the vehicle. You arrive, the officer arrive on the scene, and the victim and the officer get together and will start tracking your vehicle in real time. And, we got helicopters that can go up. If they're at a certain location, we're gonna find it, and then we can focus in on that area. So with that said, this helps us out big as well as the citizens, so please consider taking advantage of that AirTag. The city is offering a pilot plan right now. There's a campaign that kicked off, started in the 5th district, and I think maybe the 6th district. They're going statistically where they're happening a lot. So eventually it's probably gonna come around over to this way and get everybody free to put them out. The city has no control over it. You do it right over your cell phone. But in the meantime, I wouldn't wait. I get it now. Let's move on. I want to talk about some crime prevention. Awesome, thanks. These theft from autos are really preventable crimes. And I say this at every one of our meetings. So if you look at this slide here, please remember to remove all your valuables from plain view. Try to park in welded areas, alarm your vehicle, something like this, if applicable. Remind your visitors and your contractors, because we're getting a lot of contractors, they park blocks away and they leave stuff in plain view in their vehicle. Let your contractors or guests know. And also, think about purchasing a steering wheel club. If we can bump up to that steering wheel club on the slide. Steering wheel club, I don't want to get here. You can purchase these at Walmart. They're probably like $25. You can also purchase them online. The good thing about a steering wheel club, they can prevent your car from being stolen, but you can put it on top of your airbag. We were seeing a while ago, knock on wood, to settle down, or get some airbags stolen from the steering wheel. So if you put this right over the steering wheel, they can't get to the airbag. And finally, I'd like you to report all suspicious persons that you see to 911, especially those areas where I told you where the crime, the theft of autos were occurring, no matter how minor you think it may be. Because we want to come out and we want to investigate. And that's how we go to catch these working together. I want to ask you to move this is my final PowerPoint. Can you go to the camera program to the table? DC Police with the city have a camera rebate program. MPD has a generous rebate program. Homeowners and tenants with owner's permission can apply for this rebate. The only things that we ask is the cameras must be registered with MPD. The camera system must keep the video up to 48 hours. And the rebate is really good. It's up to $350 for up to 2 cameras, plus some accessories. All you have to do is go to that website, and they all see this. When you see the website, obsjg.dc.gov, and click on that. I will tell you this, I know several of the residents in the PSA that they got these cameras through this program, and they said it covered almost 95%. And it's really good. If you get all these cameras, you can't walk down the street and commit a crime without being seen. We can just follow the cameras all the way down the street, around the corner to the next camera. So it really helps us big time as well. With that said, I want to talk about the traffic report. And then we're going to jump into Captain Haskins. And we're going to take all questions at the end collectively between the sergeant and the captain and myself. So we can streamline this.
Do we want to pause this while you do the traffic and then we'll start it again?
I'm ready to go right now.
Okay, with the traffic?
Yep.
All right, perfect.
We're ready. Yeah, we I had some good stats in here I wanted to share. I just don't see where I get them at. Anyway, I'm going to go over the locations that I patrolled the last 30 days, and I do remember my stats, so I can bring them up. We covered Ward Circle. 4,500, 4,600, 5,000 block of MacArthur, we focused on speeding. And when I say Ward Circle, going back to Ward Circle, where they're going through the center, turning from the center, where you get 4 signs, 2 illuminated signs, pylons, street markers, and they're still turning. So we gave that special attention. I will say that it is improving. Like we're still getting violators. Most of those violators are telling me they're following their GPS. So we will continue monitoring that intersection. Macomb Street, the 4,500 block of Macomb Street. If anybody is zooming in, it's from there. I was out there for the last 2 months. I wrote 42 tickets for cutting through there between 7 and 9:30 in the morning, Monday to Friday. So we'll stay on top of that. And then finally, over there in the Palisades, Dorset, Carolina Place, Sherrier Place, and Potomac. Evening rush hour where they use that to bypass the intersection of Arizona and MacArthur. It is getting heavier out there, so we've been out there. Our Officer Mark Koo and myself have been getting out there as much as we can. And I wrote about 22 tickets out there. I was looking, but year to date in the second district, I remember the numbers. We wrote 8,999 NOIs here in the second district. Not all in the PSA 205. Second district has 9 PSAs. So out here. Last month I wrote 162. That was mine, but I had some vacation days. Otherwise it'd be a little higher. We wrote 459 tickets so far this month in the second district. And I'm going through my head with the stats. Speeding in the whole city, we wrote 400 some odd tickets speeding, but the interesting thing that sticks in my mind was 24 of them were 25 miles an hour over the speed limit, which is pretty high. Other than that, I think I'm going to pass it on to Captain Haskett in the back, who's going to talk about the carjackings. And then, as I said, we'll take questions at the end. So if you have any questions, just jot them down. We'll take them.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you all for having me. So we all know about, unfortunately, although last year at this time, past month, we had no robberies. This month, we had 3, 2 of them being carjackings. I spoke to the lieutenant who has the carjacking task force for the carjacking that occurred at Foxhall. We do have a person of interest. They have some grainy video of the perpetrators after they parked the vehicle on the other side of the city. So unfortunately, the video is too grainy to be able to get a warrant off of that. So we're gonna have to wait for forensics on it. So with the person of interest, in the coming weeks, we're hoping that that advances to a closure. On Sherrier, we are also waiting on forensics on that. So we do not yet have, that I know of yet, a person of interest in regards to that. With the juvenile case on Q Street, we expect that to be closed as well, being affiliates with MacArthur High School. So that is very disconcerting that we had those 3 occurrences in the past 30 days, but
What about the carjackings that took place in March on Q Street and sometime this summer on Foxhall and Canal?
Foxhall and Canal this summer. I
What about
don't
the hill?
coming up the hill
Yeah, from Georgetown.
from
Oh,
Georgetown.
That was it was an attempted carjacking. They backed up.
Yeah, they backed up and, yeah, exactly.
Okay. I don't have any information. If that one's been closed, I can get you the information on that, Chief,
Thank you.
up there. With the closure or, I've not heard if it's closed, so don't believe it has been, but I'll double check on it. With that, otherwise, crime numbers are about the same as last year. Thefts. So, one precaution with the thefts that we're seeing in other parts of the city is contractors. If you are gonna have a lot of work on your home, please feel free to email either Officer McElwee, myself. We could get some special attention for your home because they have been hitting some contractors with some expensive equipment, and we don't want that to happen in front of your home. So that is one area of concern we have in terms of for thefts. Officer McElwee touched very well on the precautions with these carjackings. You definitely want to be in a well-lit area. Don't pull over necessarily
We
needed.
do have some slides, if we want to pull those up about the carjacking
Yes.
prevention. You want to get to that now?
We could do that, sure. I think these are Officer McElwee here, so.
Yeah, so next slide, Brad.
If you could move that picture? I think you can.
I can. Actually, it's, people at home aren't seeing that, only people here. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But it's right on the
Commissioner
screen.
Duncan, we are seeing the slides. Is there something else you're referencing?
So the view here in the room shows the sidebar with the cameras, but it's running off of. I can't do anything about it, but it's only for people here in the room.
Okay.
So a lot of this will be based upon just be very careful on how you loiter in areas. They like to. Particularly, they prefer obviously a stopped vehicle. And they will come up to somebody who's just parked or something like that. So be very aware of your surroundings. Especially if you're idling throughout the city, you've seen a pattern of a car idling, waiting. In the case of Vauxhall and Whitehaven, it was a bump. So usually if somebody bumps you, they're gonna look like they're startled, like they just bumped you accidentally here. They were quite intent in there, and very deliberate in what they wanted to do. So if you see somebody bumping you on purpose, I would.
So what should that individual do? Drive to a police station?
No, I would say is find as safe a spot to pull over as you can. Police station unfortunately won't usually be too far away, but instead of maybe
Like a gas station where they're.
gas station, maybe they don't like to have witnesses or camera footage. So you could stop by with either or both, even better. That is something they prefer not to have. With that, so just, be very cautious on that. Those bump and robberies or bumping carjackings, they come up from time to time over the years, so we're hoping this isn't some kind of trend at all, but definitely your first available spot to pull over might not be your best, particularly on something like Vauxhall where it's dangerous to stop anyway. So I would say even Vauxhall between Reservoir all the way up to Nebraska is probably not a no-go now. Pull over, I would pull over someplace a little more public. If you're Reservoir.
What about not pulling over at all?
Well, if there's damage to your vehicle and there's other, if you feel unsafe, no, don't pull over at all, absolutely. But if you do pull over, try to pick a safe place. There are a few places that come to mind, and maybe on MacArthur from the CBS. There's a Reservoir in front of the embassy, places that have camera footage. Or Vauxhall by where the sandwich shop is.
They just moved to the next slide about entering and exiting your vehicle.
Yes, knowing what's around you being cognizant of your surroundings is very much a good way to help prevent yourself from being a victim. They like to have the element of surprise, and if they see somebody who's got their wits about them, very deliberate, purposeful, they know what's around them. You are not as good a candidate to them for a robbery. So, that's, all of these I think are very important for them, keeping valuables out of sight. And I see this on occasion, on MacArthur Boulevard, leaving your vehicle running, I've seen that way too many times. So, we've all seen it probably, particularly outside coffee shops. Any questions?
I think the next slide is the what to do. This is the last one.
Yes, give up your car, try to get away, don't fight. So I'm sure you all watch the news, FBI agent, an armed FBI agent was carjacked. If you have a gun to your head, I don't care how good you are at marksman. They have to, they got, they have the vehicle, they have whatever they want. If there's a gun to your head. I am many times armed. If somebody had a gun to my head, I am not actually the person that I just make that. They have the vehicle. The vehicle is very easy to recover, especially if you have those tags that Officer McAwee spoke about. The BMW in question in the last carjacking was recovered within about, I think, within an hour, 2 hours. And was able to be returned to the owners. They didn't fight over the vehicle and they still got the vehicle back. So it's not worth it on that. Many of us can just track our vehicle.
What was the make of the first Vauxhall? Wow.
We can end the presentation, Brad. Thanks.
BMW X3.
More BMW X3s.
So there has been a trend for BMW X3s have been rather popular for the carjackers. Just like Canada's jackets are very popular right now. What's the other jacket called?
Montclair.
Montclair. I'm not really good with fashion, so hardly pronunciation. So Montclair jackets, yeah, if they see you with a Canada's or that, that's like the very fashionable in thing to have. They're very expensive, a status item. BMW X3s are also some others very popular in the car industry, so be particularly careful if you have one of those.
Sorry, commissioners, my screen has frozen here. Sorry. All right, should we open it up for questions? We're gonna start with the commissioners, and then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Kevin Roots, who is here, and then I was going to ask Commissioner Nowak or Commissioner Davis to monitor the chat because my computer is frozen and I've been locked out.
Yep, happy to do so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, does anyone have any specific questions?
I've got a statement that I can go after.
Okay, Commissioner Elkins.
You mentioned that you were waiting for forensics in a couple of cases. What is the normal or average time that you're waiting? Are you waiting for a long time, weeks or what?
My understanding is variable, but it said it's weeks. You know, unless is that what everyone? That's my experience with it. It's weeks.
And is it your sense that there's just a backup at the lab? Is that?
No, no indication there's a backup of the lab, but it is their normal course of business to take that long in cases like these. Now, if it was something more of like a homicide or something, they might be able to expedite that.
Would it help you if it was faster, the forensics?
Sure.
Would you be able to do a better job if it was like a week rather than 6 weeks?
Faster the better. Absolutely. I'm not sure how practical that is, but yeah.
I'm just thinking
quicker the
that
better.
in there would be another agency like
The sooner we get this person caught behind bars, the sooner I think the safer we will all be.
I have a question, real quick. First of all, officer, thank you for coming to talk to us tonight. I know that's getting late in the evening. A few weeks ago in the Washington Post, the editorial board had a story about a young woman on Capitol Hill who had been carjacked, who did have a Apple tag in her car. And the officers responded quickly, and they were able to track it real time, and they followed the car through the city, but the police officers were forbidden to pursue them. And so they just had to wait because there's a no chase policy. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like how, in what circumstances would the officers be able to chase them down to catch the perpetrator? And in what circumstances are they not allowed to chase them?
Well, that's a good question. As you all know, we've had instituted a very strict pursuit policy here at NPD. And so it would have to rise to the point where we would think that not catching the suspects in the vehicle will, at least to a probable cause level, lead to death or serious bodily injury. That is, the most recent update was imminent. Okay, yeah, the word, I choose my words very carefully because they have changed it a bit. So imminent is the standard of that. So it's a fairly high standard. If it's something where and also if it's something, even with that standard, it's going through a densely populated area, such as a school zone or something, that also factors into it.
And do police officers get the feeling that the perpetrators kind of know this, that they know that they can kind of get away without being chased, or is that the feeling?
Certainly. Certainly, yes. I've heard one account from the a 3rd district commander where he's claimed that a robber actually waved goodbye to the officers as he pulled away. They do know about it, and it makes us have to do a lot of follow-up afterwards, and in terms of the follow-up investigation, rather than possibly catching something more in front of it.
Seem to make it more difficult for you to do your jobs with the policy like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hart?
Just generally with the carjackings, do you know what percentage of them roughly are joyriding versus, trying to sell the car or selling parts of the car?
So that's a good question. So selling the car, there have been instances like that. There was somebody indicted for that, I think months ago. Those, I haven't seen too many of those where they're just selling it. So it seems anecdotally, I've not done an analysis. There's a group that just do joyride it right across the city. They use it to have a fancy ride home, so to speak. Other times they use it to, and these are the ones that are far more concerned to us. They use it then, oh, we've got the perfect robbery vehicle, so they go around robbing people with the vehicle, or they go around committing thefts from auto. Counterparts in Montgomery County and Arlington have been seeing that too, where cars, stolen vehicles will be used to commit other crimes. So that's unfortunately about, what I say, about 50-50 is about right for that. Anecdotal about 50-50 on that. The so-called joyriding across the city and okay, I have a fast car, now it's time to do something. I hope that answered.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Oh, you have wanted to read a statement, go ahead.
My name is JP Simkwitz. I'm an ANC commissioner in Foxhall, And as you may know, I've submitted numerous resolutions on crime. Some of those resolutions, I didn't even get a single second from my fellow commissioners, which meant there was no discussion and no debate. However, I think the commission is taking it seriously, which I don't think that it did in prior months. There's plenty of blame to go around on crime. That I start with our elected officials on the council who have discounted the effects of crime and have favored the criminals over the victims. I believe that they should resign or be recalled. Fortunately, our Ward 3 council member, Matt Freeman, is not one of those council members. Councilmember Freeman, Ward 2 council member Brooke Pinto, and Ward 8 council member Treyon White have been our protectors over the past few months, and I thank them for their efforts to stop crime in our city. Likewise, Mayor Bowser, who grew up in DC and like me remembers the really bad times of the 80s and 90s, has done what she can do on crime. However, she has to work with the council, who is, in my opinion, not looked out for regular citizens of the district. The U.S. Attorney's Office and the DC Attorney General's Office are also to blame because they've been completely negligent at bringing offenders to justice and ensuring that they're placed behind bars if you're found guilty of a crime. I cannot also forgive the judges of the DC Superior Court who regularly let offenders go with pretrial release and very light sentences. Our police, on the other hand, are not to blame because the council has defunded them and reduced their numbers from 4,000 to 3,200 in the midst of a crime crisis. So how can they be to blame for this mess that we're in now? We need to thank and support our officers who are doing their job despite the odds completely stacked against them. What can you do if you're angry about crime like I am? Call the mayor's office, call your commissioners, call your council members, call the U.S. Attorney's Office, and call your elected DC Attorney General, and let them know that the status quo is not acceptable.
Thank you. Mr. Roots, would you like to say something
Sure.
or ask a question?
Glad to talk or share anything you like. Nice statement, appreciate it, especially appreciate you one. I'm the Sure Place carjacking. All right, just a real kind of snapshot for what happened to folks on the line and others in general. I was coming back from Sagamore Safeway about 11 o'clock when they were closing on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Got out of my car, was walking up and we have like 20 yards between our street and our front door. And a car came creeping up behind me, right? I thought it was actually our daughter coming home in an Uber, so I actually turned back down our yard to walk back towards the car.
She's 18, by the way, not a young daughter.
That's fair. Damn. So I thought it was her coming on an Uber. Turned around to the car. That's when the 5 kids jumped out. They had the guns. They asked me for my keys. Thought, they surrounded me. Thought to ask me for my cell phone, and then they took off with my car. And then
And your phone.
and my phone. Super appreciate you all. You guys are heroes. The MPD. We were really kind of disappointed in how the next few hours went. I was going to go after them, right? Just from past experiences here in the Palisades and what I thought I would do in a similar situation, and not to do much more than probably just get your attention and track the car. Instead, what happened was within probably 3 minutes, we were tracking my phone, and we made couple of 911 calls within probably 5 minutes. Right, the first one hung up. We didn't know if they really were gonna, you all were gonna show up or not. The second one went through. We probably had an officer in our home within
Few minutes.
probably 10-15 minutes, which was good. Then we were looking at the phone in the car, presumably tracked across town. And we didn't know about the no case policy. So that was, we're trying to figure out why we weren't a little bit more aggressive about trying to go after and find the car. I think an important part too is that you didn't really provide a lot of data about why we think they're taking cars. I mean, are there 900 or 50% of them are because people want jackets and, fashion wear or 50%, joyriding. There's got to be more data about what's in the cars and being taken or or if it is just X3s or otherwise. I'd be curious to know more about that. That said, I had, a lot of valuable stuff in the car, my fault for not, taking it out sooner. They took the car, we tracked across town for probably a good hour. And we listened to the challenge of MPV, again, probably under-resourced. Some communication challenges between moving amongst districts as we watched the car go across town. And at a certain point, one of the officers on the line suggested that we alarm the phone. And yeah, and so we started doing that, and that's the phone, I guess, was chucked out somewhere in Southeast, and we eventually were able to get it later that night, but obviously it's separated from the car. So there wasn't a really good communication of, should be looking for the car that they showed up in, the black sedan with tinted windows, my silver X3, and 5 folks dressed in dark clothes with guns. So that as I joined the detective to go get my car later on that, or go get the phone later on that night, right? We trooped across town. There's another, I guess, carjacking. They found the phone, car wasn't taken, but I could hear the call outs, as we went across town, and it wasn't even my car, year, make, model. It was just something was happening in kind of the communications across town where that was being lost. And trying what people were, what the.
We were asked the same question many times. What's the license plate number? What's the make and model of the car? What's the like the same questions for hours that night by many different people. And so I know I was thinking, why don't you all have an app where you can say carjacking, enter the information once, and then it goes out to whoever it needs to go to, because
We do have Microsoft Teams where we can send that out. I'm just surprised.
I'm just giving you our experience where we were being asked, at least 20, 30 times.
Honestly, like an hour into being in our house, the officer should have first said, what color is the car?
Yeah.
Right, that happened. I heard, I heard that it
No,
was an
I-
X5 instead of an X3 on the radios. I mean, it's just, again, you guys, homicide, someone in harm's way is much more important than our car, but it was just kind of concerning that there wasn't a, just more of a protocol of gathering and sharing information. So, the car is a car, right? And honestly, the reason I wanted to go after him was just so that, someone other than I wouldn't be in a worse situation, because these kids were out and they had their, their greater confidence. I didn't know anything about, the no chase policy. I didn't know much about something that should be addressed, and that's just the greater issue with youth in DC not being detained or being deterred, right? And that's part of it. They're able to deter that, right? And so I think that's important for people to understand and know, as to, we just have this bigger issue in DC that's way bigger than the value of any car. I think if I were to ask for anything, it is that we do, encourage the air tags, but use them smartly, because we essentially had my phone tracking along, and just didn't use it effectively. We could use, we hear that there are a lot of cameras around the city, but they were just very public places. When I was riding with the detective later that night, she was stopping in different places where she thought maybe they might have pulled off. But there's a lot of public parks. We live across from the Palisades Park, right? And there's no reason why we can't have some big 360 camera that monitors the public space. That seems affordable and viable and not intrusion on public, interest, because the park is so busy all the time. There's a lot of people in the parking lot throughout the day. So food for thought there. Campuses probably here include having blue light. That seems like really effective for folks. The cameras on doors will be helpful. I think I try to go through that process probably about 2 years ago. Maybe it's improved now, with reimbursements and stuff like that. So hopefully that'll be easy, especially for our seniors and the likes, for them to go online and get that reimbursed as part of it. So And that's my last thing. If there are things that we can do as a neighborhood, just to especially support the seniors and single folks. We have a lot of people that walk their dogs at night and, you know, they're just nervous now. It's just really, and that's not for lack of needing more of you, you know, working more hours to be there. It's just that we probably aren't using technology and each other as much as we can, so.
And I think also, I just want to clarify, the car was not recovered that night. I don't know if that's what you meant to say earlier or not.
I meant only the other one did, yeah.
Okay.
The other, his car was not recovered for another, I don't know,
Yeah,
week, 10 days.
Yeah, and they were joyriding. The car, you know, reeks of weed, you know, they go in and they, it's the second car we've had taken actually. So they go in and they, you know, get anything valuable, you know, they dump it. People in the place where we picked up the car in Southeast were super nervous. They had the car locked up in a, you know, special building. Because they were worried about other people, the kids coming to get the car again, you know, or others coming and scrapping the car. So, yeah, we have a much, you know, we have a significant issue about just keeping ourselves safe. It's great that you all are sharing, give away your car, you know, don't try to escalate the situation in any way. But there's probably more we can do just to have more eyes on potential crime and habits like the ones you shared to just prevent them from happening.
Everything you bring up about it, thank you.
The status quo is unacceptable. What can we do if we're not doing it as a city? You know, as commissioners, what can we do?
I think, so I know here, I think we're trying to beef up our numbers. Because I'd like to have more patrols on the MacArthur, down Sherrier, and Vauxhall and stuff. I'd like to beef that up a little bit and have more of a focus, not just on going from call to call, or doing, but I'd like to have more traffic enforcement officers, I think, overall. I'm not looking for people to get too many stop sign or speeding tickets, but overall, I think it does have a traffic calming kind of an effect of, oh, this is an area that is policed. So yeah, beefing up our numbers is something that we would.
As far as number of officers,
Yeah, so.
Commissioner Duncan and I had productive discussion over the past few weeks about the status quo of other things like the call center at 911. Maybe that should be something. Yeah, you heard that, you said that, I think there was a problem there.
Well, we made the first call in and just kind of hung up, you know, there wasn't, you know, we made it clear that they had a phone, that didn't get relayed, the officer showed up, and then later, so, you know, the same questions being asked, where if he knew, he wouldn't be scribbling on a notepad in a way that he couldn't even read it himself. You know, it was clear that, you know, information wasn't gathered effectively and passed forward. Yeah.
Appreciate that feedback.
Yeah.
So I hope we can work together in the coming months and come up with some resolutions that might be able to address everything.
Commissioner Duncan, I have a number of questions from the chat, if I could read those to get those up there. The first question is carrying or using mace or bear spray legal in the district?
So, yeah. Pepper spray is legal. Yeah, mace, I believe is still prohibited, yeah.
Okay. The next one is concerning air tags. Should we be concerned that the carjackers will ask if there's an air tag in the car? And if they do, how should we handle it if there is an air tag in the car?
That's
I would say, what's an air tag? I don't know what you're talking about.
I would hide those air tags, yeah, hide it very well.
AirTag will tell an iPhone that it's being tracked by AirTag, so eventually they have an
But
iPhone.
only after a few hours. Only after a few hours.
Yeah, but
Not immediately, yeah.
Then that's an AirTag phone.
Yeah, it won't be an
Also-
immediate issue if you plead ignorance.
Okay, another question from another person about air tags. and I'm quoting, "I have heard that some individuals are placing air tags on cars of individuals that they are targeting and using them to follow the targets back to their homes to commit robberies or carjackings. Have we seen this?"
I have not seen a case like this. Yeah, I have not seen a case of this in the second district as of yet. So something I'll explore. That's a good valid point to bring up. I'm not sure if that's possible that somebody could track somebody else's air tag without that person's.
But I think that's the point, is that an AirTag can be placed on a car.
Oh, so, yes, I see what you're saying.
But does it go back to the question that was asked earlier, that after a couple of hours, if it's in my car, it'll ping my phone and let me know that I'm being tracked, right? So assuming the driver has an AirTag, at least they'll be notified. Okay,
Yeah.
those are all the carjacking questions, but there are two other questions. One was Officer McElwee referred to something that happened on MacArthur Boulevard in the past 30 days. Was that
We
just
had it
around
on-
your traffic reporting, your
The only thing I talked about on MacArthur Boulevard was, extra speed enforcement out there, 4,500, 4,600, and 5,000 block. I don't think we reported any crimes in MacArthur.
okay, and I think there is one last one I want to, has there been a noticeable uptick in crime since the opening of the MacArthur High School?
In terms of thefts and all other crimes besides the three we talked about, no noticeable trend as of yet. Too early to tell, in my opinion, but not as of yet.
Okay, and so that's all from the chat. I just have one more question, Captain, and that is, you talked about how you'd like to have more officers on the beat, and Commissioner Simkowitz talked about the council cutting budgets. Have you requested officers be assigned and have been told that there's no budget to do so, or are there other challenges to recruiting and onboarding officers?
Good question. I've not specifically asked for more officers. It's not really how downtown and headquarters decide how to allocate resources. I don't ask for more or less. And I'm just basically it's a centrally located, it's a centrally controlled part.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It looks like we have a hand raised. Marilyn, can you,
Daniel's iPad, you are up.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and Tony, thank you, and Captain, thank you. I just while you're out driving, a good rule of thumb would be, look at your mirrors, go through them constantly while you're driving. Second of all, if you cannot see the rear tires of the vehicle in front of you, you're too close. And if you have to make an evasive move, you can't, because the car in front of you is too close to you and it doesn't work. That said, if someone were to bump into you and it was a slight bump, leave. Go to a well-lit area. You didn't hit and run. They hit you. If they chase you, give them the damn car. It's insured. In response to the AirTag being placed on a vehicle, you can go onto your Bluetooth and find a device that you don't know, and you can eliminate it. That's one of the features of the AirTag. So in other words, if somebody put one on your vehicle and you go to Bluetooth and you're like, well, wait a minute, what's this? And you're out in the middle of nowhere, chances are it's an AirTag. You can disable it. Just turn it off with the Bluetooth. You might want to talk to a tech guy a little bit more on that, but they are visible if you look at your Bluetooth from your device. And again, it's Apple only. It doesn't work with Android. And the last thing I wanted to say, and it's from my years as a first responder, do not become part of an emergency. It's an automobile. It's a motorcycle. It's a skateboard, whatever. If somebody wants it and they have a weapon, whether it be a real gun, an air gun, or whatever, you don't have that luxury to make that decision. Give it to them, walk away. It can be replaced. You cannot. And that's all I wanted to bring up. But the thing is, the keeping of the distances behind vehicles, you're too close to a vehicle if you cannot see their rear tires on the pavement in front of you through your windshield.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it from the chat, Commissioner Duncan.
Okay, I did actually get an email from the victims on Foxhall. And I'm not gonna go into, you've already, talked about the crime, but she does say here that, the three of them remain extremely traumatized and they can no longer walk or drive without fearing an attack. They're having trouble sleeping, waking up, and they were coming back from their parents and they don't necessarily feel safe walking their parents or walking the dog. They were so grateful for the police's fast response and their assistance that night. Their vehicle was recovered very quickly and they had an excellent experience using the tracking. And and then she talks about things that we talked about today that you had given them about how to avoid, and she was very grateful for that. And she was grateful to the ANC for hosting this forum. And I know that if you have a gun pointed at you, it's probably pretty traumatizing for the average person. Is there any, are there any resources for victims and that the city does, or?
Yeah, we do have victim resources, handouts for victim services. I could have somebody reach out.
Have a line, and maybe we'll when we do like a recap, we'll get it out there. But obviously reading,
Yeah, let me put my email in this chat. So
yeah, you should be able to do it right from there. And then I'm going to ask the administrator, Commander Savoy, unfortunately, at the last minute had other matters to attend to, and she's our new commander, and she will be returning to a future meeting when it works out for both of us, and we will welcome that.
She said she'll be here
Next month. Okay, great. All right, it will be wonderful to have her. And unless there are any other questions, we are going to spend 1 minute saying goodbye to our guests.
Thank you for having us.
Commissioner, I just have one request, and that is, can we have somebody type into the chat the email or URL for the camera, which was in the deck that was presented earlier? Officer McElwee, if you could type that in. I think that was actually Victim Services that runs the camera program. So that might kill two birds with one
And
stone.
the search term will be DC Camera Rebate Program.
Yeah.
I don't have the link right here. But
I think, I bet you our administrator Brad could probably.
There it is. Brad's put it in the chat. So thank you.
Okay, great.
So
And I see one,
to anybody who's listening, that is the Office of Victim Services. So that will also answer the questions for anybody. who's
Yes,
looking
oh,
for
that's
assistance.
right. Also, services.
I would like to offer to call on Sarah Tama. Ms. Tama, can you unmute?
Unmute, and you want to do video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Trisha, this is Jason disguised as Sarah. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Hello.
Hey, hello. And Sarah's here with me as well. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to thank you all for the forum and just give a shout out to our police force and thank them for coming tonight. I know you're going to do the same here, but on behalf of our family and certainly other members of the community, we appreciate what MPD does every day. You've got very difficult jobs. We know you're under-resourced. We know the odds are against you in many, many ways, but we're thankful for what you do every single day. So we just wanted to share that and thank you all very much.
That is a
Thank you.
great way.
We very much appreciate your words. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are
Thank you.
moving on with our agenda. And we are going to start with our elected official office representatives. And I believe Matthew Barclay, our MOCR, is here. And I invite you to come to the podium if you would. And just so you know, the little gray round thing, that is the microphone. If you can just.
Little gray round thing.
Yeah, it should pick you up pretty well if you project.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Barclay. I'm your Ward 3 MOCRs for the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. My number is 202-340-7853. Email Matthew, MATTHEW.Barclay, BARCLAY@dc.gov. This week, I have some announcements. So DPW sleeve collection, your section, ANC3D section is Section D of DPW's leaf collection, and Section D will be starting on December 11th, so this is next Monday. So please rake your leaves up and put them on the side of the road. Also, we are in preparation. We are encouraging residents to prepare for winter weather events by preparing their homes and supporting any future deployment of the district snow team. The district snow team is made up. Excuse me. It's made up of more than 800 employees from across district government, operating more than 250 snow plows to keep DC streets clear. The preparedness tips include ways for residents to sign up for real-time weather alerts through alert.dc.gov, so check that out. And we encourage residents to sign up for Serve DC's a volunteer snow team at servedc.galaxydigital.com/snow-team/. And also just reach out to me if you're wanting these like links and things. This week, Mayor Bowser, new subject. Mayor Bowser released her carbon-free DC plan, district's comprehensive strategy to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045. The plan identifies key actions necessary to reduce the district's contribution to global emissions, while also creating a healthier, more resilient, and more equitable DC. Carbon-free DC's key strategies include phasing out on-site fossil fuel combustion in buildings, bringing housing, jobs, and daily needs closer together, enabling more residents to walk, bike, and take public transit to reach their destinations, assessing and reducing embodied carbon of materials and energy use. To learn more about the carbon-free DC strategy, you go to DOEE, Department of Energy and Environment, DOEE.dc.gov/service/climate-change. New subject. On Friday, Mayor Bowser and the Department of Employment Services launched Career Ready DC with Eightfold AI, a new AI matching technology platform that will assist DC residents with getting matched to employment opportunities across the region. Career Ready DC is a free service that will allow residents to discover job and career opportunities based on their individual work experience and skills. The platform will also provide employers with a pipeline of talented candidates. Career Ready DC will initially open to residents who are enrolled with DC Networks, the district's jobs board site. It provides job seekers, training providers, employers, and UI applicants with 24-hour access to district's workforce development resources. New subject. The public hearing for Mayor Bowser's Addressing Crime Trends Now Act was Wednesday, November 29th, with more than 80 public witnesses. Residents and organizations that are still interested in submitting written testimony can still do so until December 13th at 5 p.m. If you're interested, I can send you a link, but it's the DC Council website, the LIMS website. This week, new subject. This week, council proposed new legislation regarding the OUC and moving the 911 system under parts of the 911 system under fire and EMS, and the fire EMS chief John Donnelly released the following statement in response to legislation being proposed that would transfer medical dispatch to fire and EMS. As chief of fire and EMS, I do not support this bill. OUC is a valued partner, and their call takers and dispatchers play an integral role to our agency's emergency responses. I am in constant contact with Director McGaffin and support the innovations OUC is taking in identifying where challenges can be made to improve the system and how DC FEMS can support them. This bill does not advance our collaborative approach. I appreciate our elected leaders working to make our community safer, and I'm always happy to participate in those conversations. So that was a statement from Fire EMS Chief Donnelly, John Donnelly. New subject. The Department of Small and Local Business Development has launched an annual I Buy DC challenge to allow residents and businesses to showcase their support for DC small businesses on social media. So if you buy anything in DC from a DC business, hashtag I Buy DC. Would be lovely. Thank you. New subject. The immunization compliance restrictions begin on Monday, December 4th for DC public schools and public charter schools, students in pre-K, kindergarten, 7th and 11th grades. There are an estimated 7,500 students out of compliance to this date, and students will be required to stay at home until proof of vaccination is submitted. So get your children vaccinated. Also, next Saturday, there is a Ed Fest, DC's annual public school fair, and families can join to learn, to hear about free services, fun activities. I messed this up. We'll also feature many free services, fun activities for the whole family, including guidance from the My School DC team, Parental Advisory Council. You can get your flu shot, COVID vaccines. There's recreational activities from DC Parks and Rec, and free meals from DC Central Kitchen. So that is all I have for today. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Barkley?
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's nice.
Good to see you in person.
Absolutely. December 11th, at least. I promised you last time. We're good.
Thank you. Is Lauren Lipsy here from Councilmember Fruman's office?
Do not see her in the chat or in the participant list.
Okay, unfortunately, she sent me a thing early on in the meeting, but I've lost it now. So if she has something, a statement or something, we can put that out on our various listservs, and we are going to move on. I don't believe that DDOT is here, but is Christian Pinheiro here?
Not on the participant list.
Okay. Up next is Kevin Days with GW to give a quick report on enrollment numbers.
Good evening.
Great. Yes, you're on.
Thank you. So good evening, commissioners and community members. As required by our 2002 campus plan, annually, we're supposed to come and give you a quick update on how we're doing in terms of our enrollment caps. I'm not sure if I can share this report. It's not necessarily that important for people to see. But I did send the report to the commission last week, which shows that GW's Mount Vernon campus has a daily head count of 1,725. And as of a census that was taken during the week of October 7th, 2023, the university remained well under the 1725 head count. In addition to a daily head count of students, GW is also required to have an FTE account enrollment cap of no more than 1,100. And again, the university during the same week, during its census, showed that the daily FTE count remained under 1,100, topping out at 868 on Monday, which is the most popular day on campus. So again, I've sent the report to the commissioners, and if the commissioners want to make that report available, community members could take a look at those numbers, but the university remains under its cap. And that completes my very short, very brief presentation.
Thank you. There are a lot of people who are interested in those caps, so thank you for that report.
Mr. Days, is that a cap of residences or students?
Students, it's a daily student. There are two separate counts. There's one of students, both resident students who are living on the campus and taking courses in on Mount Vernon campus, and non-resident students who may be living at the Foggy Bottom campus, but come up to Mount Vernon to take courses. And if you look at the report, you can see that those numbers are broken out individually.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is Corey Peterson here from American University?
I am here, Commissioner.
Hello.
Hello. Again, Corey Peterson, AVP for Community Government Relations. We last week at our Community Liaison Committee meeting, we talked a little bit about our enrollment and housing report. I'll drop a link into the chat that'll have a link to where you can find this document, but wanted to say we are good. We are required to provide, maintain a supply of on-campus housing sufficient to make housing available for 100% of our full-time freshmen and sophomore students, and for 67% of all full-time undergraduates. And we are at 67.67%. So our enrollment is a little down. That's not good for financial purposes, but good for our enrollment purpose, or good for the housing requirement that we have as part of our campus plan. But I'll drop a link in the chat so folks can take a look at that report.
Thank you very much. And we have not heard from Georgetown University.
I have a brief update if you want to hear it.
Do you know where they are in their enrollment?
No, I don't know about that. I'm just talking about the hospital. It's going to open next week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
After all this time. And we haven't had any impact from traffic in months. So the construction's over. And the new dorm on campus, we have zero impact from that.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any other institutions here? Raise your hand and we will get to you, but I am going to be moving on to commissioner updates. And I am going to take the prerogative to be the first to go. I have good news and I have bad news, so I'm going to start with the bad news. This is regarding the house at 5019 Eskridge Terrace, and that were built too close to the road. And I'm going to ask our administrator in our 06 December folder. I have a purple folder in there that I might have you pull up 2 exhibits because I think that this is important. All right, there was a hearing before the Public Space Committee regarding the 2 houses at 5017 Eskridge Terrace. It did not go well. If you find that, Brad, go ahead and pull up that folder, and hopefully it'll come up on the screen here pretty soon. Exhibit 1 is the original site plan the builder submitted to the Public Space Committee prior to building these homes. Also submitted to this ANC. When it comes up, you're going to be able to see that they drew these homes 50 feet off the street. Through dozens of hours of work by this commission, we discovered that the property line shown here, if you look at that little drawing there on the left, you can see how far it shows it's 52 feet from Eskridge Terrace. When I say dozens of hours of work by this commission, we discovered that that property line is shown incorrectly on the drawings. And I believe on purpose, and neither the architect nor the owner and the builder have ever said it was by accident. They only said that it didn't matter. And it turns out the Public Space Committee agreed with them. Brad, if you could go to the other exhibit 3 in the file. We're just gonna briefly show how close these homes are built to the street. We heard things from the Public Space Committee members, like, quote, "This isn't anything we wouldn't normally approve," and quote, "You know, there may be sidewalks on the side of the street where Key is, but not really across Dana Place from Key, so sidewalks might not really fit here." You can see these homes. And we can turn this off, because the owner also claimed that the ANC referred him to the Attorney General's office, and a lawyer accused us of slander. We referred his architect to the Attorney General's office. He told the Public Space Committee that the main entrance to Key was on Hearst Terrace on the other side of the school, so that sidewalks here really don't matter. I could go on. The builder will be moving the steps to the side of the home on the gray house, and then he will be free to finish the homes and sell them on the open market. The worst part about all of this is that the Public Space Committee didn't even mention the fact that the corner of the house is built in the public space. Their deliberations didn't even address it. They didn't touch on it. They didn't say it didn't matter. They just glossed over our main point on this whole thing. They didn't even claim it was a legitimate projection. Commissioner Horn or Elkins, am I missing anything?
I've got a question. Is
Yes.
there anything that we have, that we can do about this? Do we have an appeal?
There was some discussions about what we might be able to do in terms of an appeal. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure there is, or I'm not sure we just like have the hours to like put in to do that. One of the things I talked about, these are appointed positions that have to be re-upped by the council. I fully intend to be at the hearings of these 2 committee members in particular that I found their comments to be outrageously not in the best interest of the public space. They're not being good stewards of the public space, in my opinion. And I can see myself doing something along those lines.
So Chairman Duncan, just for the public record, I want to make sure I understand. The architect and the owner represented that the house was built 50 feet from the property line. But in fact, on the original drawing, but in fact, the house is extended beyond the property line into the public space. So he is in excess of 50 feet off.
No, they moved the property line on the drawings. So it's farther away from the street, but the property line is actually much closer to the street. So there's only a small projection of an actual foundation of the house that's in the public space. They just moved the property line on paper.
Understood, but the
Yes.
representation, his original representation is more than 50 feet different than the reality that was built.
Yes, because they moved the entire property line.
Right,
But
right,
most of
okay.
the houses are built, most of, like, if you went to buy those homes, the vast majority of the foundation is on the property line. It's just that the property line is right up to all of their stoop and steps and bay windows, all of that is in the public space. And they claim that they would have approved this if it had come before them just like that. My next update has much better news. This is about 5122 Cathedral. You may recall 5122 Cathedral, where ANC3D appealed the building permit. The BZA hearing for our appeal resulted in the Department of Buildings revoking the building permit because it was impossible to defend. The owner then voluntarily surrendered his permits, so there was no basis for him to appeal any decision. The owner then resubmitted drawings, as is his right, and we made the argument that his project, the way it was designed, constituted a raise and not an addition. And for those of you who remember, if you don't raise the building, you get to keep you get to grandfather in your side and front or whatever non-conforming setbacks you have. The zoning administrator agreed with us that this project was indeed considered a raise in the way in which it is currently designed. This was amazing, and we have been celebrating this big win for our community. The owner has some choices to make. He can redesign the house around the existing walls, or he can declare a raise and start completely over with new zoning setbacks. We don't have any idea what he plans to do. The neighbors still have damage to their property, which needs to be addressed, and we are monitoring that part of the project very closely and trying to get them some relief. Does anyone here have anything else to add? Okay, now I'm gonna just go in order. Commissioner Elkins.
I wanted to say both to my fellow commissioners and to members of the Transportation Committee and members of the public. It's time to begin thinking about the oversight hearings that will take place in January and February for the council. That's an opportunity for us to provide advice to the council with regard to various departments and both their policies, and then in the second hearing on their budget. Last year, we were very active, particularly on the Department of Transportation, and I expect us to do the same this year. One of the things that we did in order to give guidance to members of the community so they could testify effectively was at our January meeting, we set some priorities that the ANC itself thought were worthy of promotion, and that then gave some guidance to members of the community, including the Transportation Committee, to testify in favor of those. They can testify on other matters as well, but it gave the ANC endorsement. So I would hope, and I will take this assignment to myself, to try to come up with a tentative list of some of the policies that I think we might want to promote in the January, February timeframe and bring it to the January meeting. And we as the ANC can decide whether we want to endorse some or all of those, and that would give some guidance to members of the community. But I think I just might finish by saying I think that that the council members appreciate having cogent testimony by members of the community, and we should try to encourage that within the community, as well as commissioners. I hope that all commissioners will testify at least one of the hearings. For instance, the parking buildings is an opportunity on some of the issues that you've been dealing with, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt is absent tonight, so we are moving on to 3D04. Commissioner Horn.
I'm fine.
I'm for. Davis, right here.
OMG, my apologies.
That's better, right? Just a couple things. Yeah, no worries. Just a couple things. I just want to say thanks to Chair Duncan for all your hard work on the Cathedral Avenue property. Much applause to you for that. I kind of stepped in as you were in the middle of that, and you carried it all the way through. Congratulations on that. That's I know you worked really hard on that, so thank you for that. Also wanted to say, I know DDOT's not here, but wanted to give a shout out to them and thanks for all the new sidewalks in 3D04, because I've been walking around the neighborhood a lot and they're beautiful and they did a fantastic job. And so just want to voice my appreciation for that. Doesn't sound like much, but it really makes a big difference. You're getting around.
Sidewalks are incredibly important, so thank you for that. And now 3D05, Commissioner Horn.
I would like to talk about the MacArthur Apartments, the proposed apartments above the Black Coffee building. You may recall that this ANC has held many meetings where we've discussed this since I think February, and we had a whole town hall meeting on this. It was all on the assumption that this apartment would only require or could be satisfy its parking requirements with 6 spaces, of which 2 were zip car spaces. And that was, you know, the whole idea of this design. And then we found out in August that the zoning administrator's office told the builder that they would actually have to request a special exception for 12 parking spaces, and that they had been, operating on a misassumption about the law. And then the zoning administrator ruled that no, they could do it with just 6 parking spaces. So then this ANC approved the project with our concerns laid out. And then after we did that, the new zoning administrator reversed the prior zoning administrator's ruling, so that they do have to have a special exception for 12 parking spaces. And as a result of that, the owner and builder had to back off from the BZA hearing because they didn't have, they hadn't prepared for that. So there was a delay, and we requested an additional delay. And the owner agreed with our request for a delay. So this is now back up scheduled for Valentine's Day. When the BZA will hear this, and we do not know where the owner is going with this, whether he's going to go forward asking for a special exception, or whether he's going to redesign the building, or whether he's going to, maybe take a break and not pursue this at this time. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a big one for us. Thank you. That's been also a lot of work. Commissioner Nowak.
Okay, so my first order of business is to chastise Commissioner Davis for stealing my thanks to DDOT. 3D06 is also the home of several new sidewalks, thanks to DDOT. And not only are the sidewalks themselves beautiful, but I think the crews comported themselves in a really professional way, doing their best to mitigate traffic concerns and inconvenience to residents and motorists.
Agree.
The second thing, and I know we're going to talk about this at some length later, there are a number of resolutions being brought forward by the Transportation Committee and shepherded by Commissioner Elkins. I think that they are terrific resolutions, which the public will all see, but I wanted to thank him and the leadership of the Transportation Committee for these things. I think 3D has a great reputation across city agencies on our transportation issues specifically, and it is because of the hard work and research done by those committee members. So just a thanks in advance for those resolutions. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Simkowitz.
We went over crime already. I already talked about the hospital opening next week, so I have nothing.
Great. Thank you very much. We are moving through our agenda. Is Mr. Robert Martin here? We are going to have a short presentation, and I am going to let Commissioner Horn introduce this. And I am going to do my best to make it so everyone can see Commissioner Horn when he is speaking.
All right, thank you. What I would like to do is to give some background about what the ANC and what the city have done about legal cannabis, just so our audience has some context for the presentation that's just going to come up. And I'll just make 3 points. The first point is, as some of you may remember, the ANC considered medical cannabis retailer licenses last year. In August 2022, the ANC heard from 2 applicants who were sort of competing against each other for a license. One proposed a store in the floors above the Starbucks on MacArthur, and the other proposed using one of those townhouses on the east side of MacArthur that's near the Starbucks, where the entrances are many, many stairs up from the sidewalk. The ANC voted to approve 2 letters saying that basically we don't have a problem, but the ANC suggested that the one that was in the townhouse might probably violate the rule about staying 300 feet from a school because of the back door and key school. The regulatory board never approved either one, and I don't know why, but maybe it was because in 2022 they were anticipating a new law. So second, the city has changed the law. As you may know, there are over 100 businesses in DC which provide cannabis to customers through what's called a gifting system. They are sometimes called I-71 stores because they operate on the idea that the referendum legalizing cannabis possession, Initiative 71, has a loophole allowing customers to buy a non-cannabis item and receive some cannabis gifted to them for free. I mean, that is what is happening. In January of this year, the mayor signed the Medical Cannabis Amendment Act, which does several things, but for our purposes, it seeks to transition the city from I-71 stores to fully regulated medical cannabis stores, and it speeds up the process for a licensee to qualify. Once a licensee is approved by ABCA for a notification sign on the building, there are only 45 days for neighborhood comments. Fortunately, in this case, those 45 days will give us enough time to hear a presentation today and wait until January for a vote. And the third point, we should all understand that the law governing cannabis sales and possession is completely absurd. As Commissioner Simkowitz very correctly pointed out, at the August 2022 meeting, it's illegal under federal law. It's simply illegal. However, marijuana has been legalized in 38 states in the District of Columbia. How is that possible? In every year since 2015, Congress has attached a rider to the Department of Justice's appropriation, which prohibits them from using any funds to enforce federal marijuana laws in states that have legalized it. Federal courts have enforced that language. Legally, it is a ridiculous situation, but it is what it is. And so I wanted our audience to understand the context for this presentation by Robert Martin, who's a co-owner of Green Theory, an applicant for a medical cannabis license in our ANC, in my single member district. So, Mr. Martin?
I think you're still muted.
Sounds like I was just unmuted.
Yeah, there you are.
We're good to go? Awesome.
Yeah. And you are ready to share, you are able to share if you'd like, Mr. Martin, as well. I know you said
Thank
you
you. I
had a-
appreciate that, Commissioner. And Mr. Horn, thank you for the introduction and for the level set on the objectives of this meeting. I'd like to first thank all of the commissioners for this opportunity. I've been looking forward to this for longer than I think I even realized, and I'll give you a little background on my story in just a minute. But I'd also like to thank the members of MPD who presented earlier as well for their time and their service. Like Bernie mentioned, I'm here to provide information on my company, Green Theory, which I am a co-owner in. We are pursuing a medical cannabis retailer license from DC ABCA. We are locally owned, and our entire aim is to be a valuable member of the Ward 3 community. I'm joined tonight by my co-founders, John, Caroline Crandall, Ian Sang, Kat and Zunza, as well as my family. So shout out Dad and Lizzie. Thank you both for joining. It means a lot that you'd join to support me. As an update on the application process, last year, when you all reviewed the 2 previous applications, the process was a little bit different. ANC comments were needed to be solicited prior to the application being submitted. And it sounded like that wasted a little bit of your time. So I think the city reconsidered that. Our application has already been submitted to the city and moved to the final board approval stage. So we are awaiting final approval. ANC comments will then be the final piece of approval ahead of placarding and inspections. I will share my screen and work through a quick deck, and I'm happy to answer any topical questions that you all have as well. Apologies if there's any sort of echo. I am in San Francisco for my day job and am skipping out on something so that I can talk to you about this, as this is much more important to me, frankly. So as I mentioned, we are Green Theory, applicant for a medical cannabis retailer license. Thank you again for your time. I've included some quick bios here on the co-ownership group, John Crandall, myself, and Ian Sang. John and Ian are industry veterans, having gone through this process in California. All of us are local to DC, and we are backed by family. We are privately funded. This is about as mom and pop of a shop as you can get when it comes to how we are structured. But I'll begin by saying that this is our American dream. I first learned about medical cannabis when I was about 15. I was mowing a neighbor's lawn, and he invited me to his home and shared with me what he was doing with Emory University. I was living in Atlanta at the time, and that really opened my eyes to that this wasn't just for stoners. He used it for the appetite suppressant that was coming along with his chemotherapy to reinvigorate his appetite. He used it to lessen the nausea from that same treatment. And all of the members of our ownership and management team have similar experiences, whether it be with cancer patients, whether it be with consenting adults who just want an alternative to SSRIs for things like anxiety and depression. And we aim to be a very responsible distribution center for medical cannabis.
Mr. Martin, your
Go ahead.
screen, we can hear your audio, but your screen has frozen. So I am going to have, our administrator has your deck. Hopefully you didn't make any changes. Could we share it on our end?
Yeah, and it might have gone out because I went to full screen. Are you able to see it? Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
This is even better. Then I don't have to work the slides.
Yeah. Okay. So you'll just have to say next slide, please. You know, when you want to advance.
Next slide, please.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. I won't read this. Thank you. I won't read this in its entirety, but you can see our mission statement here. Part of the reason that I will touch on for selecting Ward 3 as where we would like to operate was that most shops, whether they're converting from I-71 or they've been existing for a while, cater to a more recreational audience. We really want to emphasize education, responsible consumption, and honestly, if you are seeking out cannabis for medicinal properties, smoking it is not a good way to go about it. And we aim to educate people on other delivery methods, other titration methods, and really have education in resource providing be the forefront of our commitment to the community. Next slide, please. I probably could have left this slide out. I did not know that Commissioner Horn was going to give such a great introduction, but here you can see what's shifting in DC. Gifting, Bernie, was actually coined by the cannabis industry. I-71 was written as a transfer provision, where if Robbie, who was a consenting adult, had another consenting adult friend who wanted to smoke a joint, I could give it to him. That has snowballed into what it is today, and I was working off an updated deck, so apologies for the typos here. And it's irresponsible, and it's ballooned into something that it never should have. It was never meant to spin up an economy around that. And I commend DC for being thoughtful about how they've gone about rolling this into a medical industry. You can see my last bullet on the left here. We are in the final board approval stages, like I mentioned, so we have not been issued the license yet. We expect that to happen in the next couple of weeks. You can go to the next slide. Here is a little bit more information on why we wanted to operate in Ward 3. From the sense of a medical cannabis perspective, it's an underserved community. There has never been a medical cannabis facility in this ward. There is lots of opportunity to actually be a part of the community. Most other shops within the city are more recreational focused underneath that medical umbrella. And again, we wanted to be a part of a community where we could focus on education, be visible, but not stand out. And we want to get to know you all and build our business and our brand with the local community in mind. You can go to the next slide. Here, I wanted to emphasize a few points, and I'll add one that I added to my new deck. You can read these here, but our commitment to security and quality begins the moment somebody approaches our shop. There will be a next to zero chance of anybody who does not have a medical patient card, who is under 21 years of age, to even enter the facility. There will be ID checks at the door, at reception, and then once again on the sales floor. All packaging will be inconspicuous. Nobody will be walking out with obvious cannabis products. There will be no nicotine products sold, no dips, no vapes, no Zyn pouches. Products quality is probably the biggest boon from the medical industry versus I-71. Nobody knows where I-71.
Oh, your audio cut out.
Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Hello?
Thank you. Yep, you're
Perfect.
good.
Awesome. So from a product quality perspective, you will be able to trace every product that is on our shelves back to its time as a seed. We will have strict inventory guidelines, and everything will actually be grown in the District of Columbia. Another net benefit to the city is that you are taking an industry that has typically brought in illicit cannabis from other states, and you are now creating an economy that's going to produce jobs and additional tax revenue for the city, and a true made in DC economy and logistics chain. We have cameras that will run 24/7. We will have cash pickups daily. All on-site products will be secured in a vault that we will build according to ABCA standards. We've already been in touch with them on what that build out needs to entail. And we will have all on-site security in terms of physical security guard at all times of operation. And a big point that I'd like to emphasize is that we are going to be a small shop. We do not want hundreds of people coming through the doors every day, although that would be great. We simply don't have the capacity. So we'd like to really emphasize delivery, which we will be able to bring products directly to licensed and above age members of the community directly to their door. We expect this to cut down on foot traffic, to cut down on the impact of parking, and just overall provide a more discreet experience for those who would like it. One of the points I also added to this after reading the minutes from your meeting in last August was that our signage will be very inconspicuous. There will be no obvious advertising of cannabis products. And unless you Google our name, you would not even know that we are a medical cannabis facility walking by on the street. If you could go to the next slide for me, that would be great. Who we aim to serve. We are going to tailor our messaging not just to folks who have been consuming cannabis their entire lives, who are going to walk into the shop and seek out particular delivery methods, but you could come into our store as a novice consumer and simply be educated. And if now is not the time to buy, there will be no pushing of products on you. If you simply want to walk out with a pamphlet, go home and talk to your family or your doctor about how this may fit into your lifestyle, you're welcome to. So we aim to not only be a retailer, but a resource to the community as well. In addition to the retailer license, we've asked for the delivery endorsement, which is a separate rider, and also a educational tasting facility, which means we could offer cooking classes, informational sessions on how to incorporate cannabis, not just as a psychoactive chemical to get high, but in pain management in tandem with medical treatments that our patients are going through as well. I'll also point out that I mentioned caregiver on this slide because there is a caregiver program within DC where nurses and other medical professionals can become a caregiver and purchase cannabis products on behalf of the patients under their care. You could move forward for me. If I could share my screen, actually, I do want to show one thing that is not included in this deck. Do you mind if I give this sharing thing one more shot?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you all see this? Just this raw
Yes.
deck that I have in front of me? Perfect.
Yeah.
One of the other pieces that I noticed in last August meeting was the confusion over the GIS survey that the city requires be performed. I think the previous applicant was saying that he was using Google Maps to determine the radius from the shop to the nearest rec centers and schools. We have already been confirmed by the city. Here you can see a graphical confirmation that the city provided us for our 4828 facility, making sure that it's in compliance with all proximity regulations. I'll update and I'll keep sharing this because that previous deck was a little outdated as of today. Here's just a general kind of guideline. We're presenting to you all. We expect the 45-day comment period to begin when our license is issued, potentially in the coming weeks. And as Bernie mentioned, I reached out in advance because I wanted to have this conversation. I welcome it, and to give you all time to deliberate and then ultimately vote on your next meeting. After that vote, if all goes well, we will have a soft opening followed by a grand opening in the early part of 2024, and potentially early spring. Commissioners, members of the public, thank you for your time and attention. That was the entirety of my deck, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I saw Commissioner Davis's hand go up first. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Martin. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us about your, I wish you luck on your enterprise. Just a couple quick questions, because this is still kind of new to me. So is a customer required to have a special license issued from the District of Columbia in order to shop at your store? Would they, or can anybody come up?
Yes, sir. No, you will need to register with DC. Patients can self-attest, meaning you could log in and in the time that I've been presenting, have been issued a temporary medical registration card. Typically within a few weeks to a month later, you will be mailed a physical card, and you can use that to then purchase products. But nobody,
no prescription or anything, no doctor involvement or anything.
No, Commissioner.
Okay. And then another question, can you tell us what your storefront might look like from the street? Is it going to be visible from the street, or is it more of like kind of an office type setting with like a discrete storefront?
It is I guess technically there's the basement walk down. I would call it a first floor walk up. The location is directly above Momo's. You won't be able to see into the facility from the street at all. The signage will be inconspicuous. It will simply say our name. There will be no neon flashing pot flowers in the window. There will be no sales advertised on the street. It will simply state our name, and that's it.
Okay. Would it be possible to have some sort of rendering or artwork that we could see something like that before we do the just for the comment period? Do you guys have anything that you've developed yet?
We have quotes out for signage, and I'm happy to provide that.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. Thanks. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Nowak, did you have your hand up?
I did. I think my question's been answered. I was interested in where specifically the store would be located. I guess just as a follow-up question, which would be answered by the rendering, is does the location have windows out to the street, and what would be visible if yes through the windows?
It does have 5 individual windows on the frontage of the building. You are not able to see into it. We've also installed blinds so that you could not walk up and look into the property either.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is anybody on your staff a licensed medical professional?
No, Commissioner.
How in the world can you prescribe any kind of drug, whether lawful or unlawful, to somebody that needs it if you're not a medical licensed professional? How do you know the dosage?
We do. Okay.
The appropriate kind of medicine that these people need?
We do not advertise to be medical professionals, and we are also prohibited from prescribing or recommending any particular cannabis products. We can simply provide information, provide examples from other patients, and then have that consenting, permitted, and registered adult make their own decisions, but we will not be prescribing or recommending any products.
But you're providing a medical dispensary then. You're dispensing something that you contend has a medical purpose, is that correct?
We're providing a medical cannabis product that has been backed up to have potential benefits. That research was not conducted by ourselves. We aim to be a retailer who's licensed to provide said products.
But you personally don't know what the benefits are for that particular person, is that correct?
That's correct. And by the certification training required by the District of Columbia, which I've undergone, the first question that you need to ask a patient who's interested is if they are willing and open to go through a 30 to 60 day titration period, like you would with any other medication, to see how it interacts with yourself.
But who would be advising the patient on that? You?
Our bud tenders, who I would be a general manager in the shop as well, will provide general information around cannabis and its interactions with the endocannabinoid system within the body. And then that patient can make their own judgment on what might be the best method for them.
Mr. Martin, does Safeway or CVS or Walgreens, to your knowledge, provide medical education on Tylenol, Benadryl, other over-the-counter products that consenting adults might come in and wish to purchase.
Is that a question for me?
Were you asking me or Commissioner?
It was
I wasn't
Mr.
sure.
Martin. To your understanding, do other retailers provide trained medical professionals in their retail settings to provide medical advice to potential consumers?
To my knowledge, if you wanted that type of information, you would need to go to the pharmacist, typically located in the rear of the store. I've never been approached by a pharmacist to educate me on Tylenol, personally.
Commissioner Nowak, that's not the right question. This is a Schedule I drug that Congress has said is dangerous to the public, and we should not be sponsoring this thing. In fact, as Commissioner Horn said, marijuana is illegal under the laws of the United States government. We took an oath of office to defend the laws of the United States of America, and we shouldn't even be voting on this thing. This is more of the American nightmare rather than the American dream, which the gentleman talked about earlier. We've heard testimony from people that have had numerous problems with secondhand smoke from marijuana, numerous problems with neighbors that the smoke comes into their house. This is a serious problem, and it's frankly, if Congress wants to legalize marijuana, they've had every opportunity to do so. They haven't done it yet, and so therefore, there's no way I can vote for this because again, we'd be voting for illegality, and that's not what my oath of office allows me to do. And I advise my other commissioners not to vote for this.
Commissioner Elkins?
Will there be consumption on site? And if so, what is
Absolutely
the
not. There will be no consumption of smokable cannabis on site, and we'll work with the community to enforce that as well. The only potential consumption that would happen on site would be through these educational classes where if somebody wanted to come learn about potential alternative delivery methods to smoking, we would be able to provide that education.
So they might consume a brownie or whatever else, well, in your cooking class, they might consume something.
Potentially, yeah.
Potential, but there would be no smoking on site.
Absolutely not. The laws have not changed in terms of public consumption. You are only permitted or allowed to smoke in the privacy of your own home, or there's an additional license endorsement, which we chose not to pursue to reduce impact to the community, which is a summer garden or a safe use facility in which we would have built private rooms within the dispensary or the retail shop so people could smoke outside of their home. We just didn't think that was a good fit for the community. And the summer garden endorsement is similar to what governs rooftop bars. So there are other retailers in other parts of the city that are pursuing rooftop spaces for public cannabis smoking. That doesn't really align with our brand and ethos, so we chose not to pursue either one of those.
We have a question from
Can I
the,
just speak this a minute, Commissioner?
Oh, no, Commissioner Elkins has a
sorry,
question.
go ahead, finish up.
Just wanted to inform my fellow commissioners that I testified at length in front of the ABCA about this, about the consumption of summer garden and the safe use. And I think that I'm very happy to hear you're not pursuing that. And if we do have applications within our ANC for such facilities, I would hope that we would have a detailed conversation among the commission about whether we would support such use. But that is not applicable here, so I just want them to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We have a question in the chat. This goes to process. Mr. Martin, will there be a public comment period? Can you tell us how the licensing works with ABRA as it relates to cannabis shops?
There is a 45-day ANC comment period. To my knowledge, and what's been explained to me by Sean Gordy, the head of the licensing board, is that the ANC is the only body permitted to actually pass, not judgment, what's the right word, to actually pass an opinion that is taken into consideration by the licensing board. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. I'm not sure it's a public comment period, but it is simply an ANC review period.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. So what I would say to members of the public who are watching and are interested in this, feel free to reach out to your commissioner, to the ANC3D office, as was highlighted earlier. We won't vote until January, so there is a month plus to forward along your views on this, and we're happy to take that into consideration.
Thank you for that, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? And just to recap, we are going to be voting on this at our next meeting, January 10th. And I'm sure we'll have questions for you as the month goes on, Mr. Martin. So thank you for that.
I was going to offer that. Yeah. Commissioner Duncan and Commissioner Horn, I know that you both have my contact information. Feel free to share that. Feel free to reach out with any questions. Again, we don't want to hide. I've really been looking forward to this opportunity to speak with you all. And if there's anything that I can provide that you think would be helpful or topical, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Website, that all this information, but I don't think it's on our website. Am I incorrect about that? In other words, how does the public get access to that? I would assume we should put this information on.
We will put the deck. If you send me the updated deck that you were sharing today, Mr. Martin, I can make a link to our website, and then the public will have access to, further digest the material.
Is there additional information as part of the application that we should share?
Yeah, your application to ABCA, is that, do they have like a portal where we can see that?
I don't believe so, and I would, forgive me, I would be hesitant to share it because I don't believe the responsibility of this commission is to review the application. It is up to the licensing board to review the efficacy of the application itself. If there are pieces of information that you would like, I'm happy to provide them, but I would not be comfortable sharing our application. It's also 230 pages long and isn't light reading. It also contains personal tax. It also, I mean, if you'd like it, I would request it from the city. I'm just not sure how to answer the question, but offhand, I'm not sure I would be comfortable submitting personal tax history that was part of our application to folks.
Okay, I definitely understand personally identifiable information.
You can redact that.
So Commissioner Horn and I can get with you, and we definitely would like to see drawings from your sign company on what the storefront's gonna look like. That will be very important to us.
Happy to provide that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
All right, we are now moving on to our official business, and thank you to members of the public who are still here. I think that we are going to be able to go through these fairly quickly.
Commissioner Duncan, can we get school board member Goulet out of here? He had a school board meeting, and let's push him to the top with him.
Okay, I had him second, but if no one objects, I am happy to flip-flop that. All right, if you would like to come, if you stand at the podium, the little gray round thing in the corner, that is the microphone.
Where do I look?
You actually,
Do I look at you? Do I look into the?
you're gonna look at the owl.
Oh, right now.
That's the camera.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna do a little introduction. So our first item is the State Board of Education passed a resolution regarding the teachers union, which our elected representative for Ward 3 on the board, Eric Goulet, is here to talk about, and the commission is going to be doing a letter of endorsement.
Thank you, Chairperson Duncan and Commissioners. I'm really honored to be here today, and I really appreciate you putting this on the agenda because it's a time-sensitive, very serious issue. When I was at the block party kickoff for DC schools, I was approached by members of our teachers union, and they informed me that the chancellor hadn't even met with them on the contract. It was coming up for expiration on October 1st, which was very concerning because last fiscal year, as all of you remember, our ward was beset with 5% cuts to all of our schools. and received thousands of emails of concern about these cuts. And it was avoided. The formula, the uniform per student funding formula went up by 5.8%. So normally that would have been great. But the chancellor had gotten 3.5 years behind on negotiating inflation adjustments for the pay of our teachers. They had to do a series of protests, and then eventually the pressure mounted and they came to the table and settled on something. And the amount of those teacher wage increases was 12.5%, which obviously doesn't fit in to 5.8%, hence these draconian cuts. And they were the largest cuts in 21 years, at least 21 years, that I've seen to our school budgets in terms of buying power. Parents were rightly outraged. Eventually the cuts were reversed by the council, but it was a way of robbing Peter to pay Paul. They had to reduce the technology budget in part to, make that work. So it was very concerning to hear the chancellor is not sitting down and negotiating with our teachers whose contract expired again on October 1st. Our principals and other school officers that are in the CSO contract, that expires next year. And the problem with this is these contracts have to be negotiated around the end of December because they've got to be built in to the formula and then transmitted with the school budgets that come to the LSATs to review. And so we're about, just a little over a month away from being 2 years behind on the contract again already. And there's really no explanation for it. What the union has told me is the chancellor's insisting on a series of ground rules before he'll even begin discussions on this, which is just strange. I mean, it's very unusual, and it's not the type of leadership we need that's collaborative with our union to get our schools to the right place. So I drafted this resolution in consultation with WTU, and we're going to, obviously keep pushing on this, but it's really urgent because, as I say, just a month away, we'll be back in a position where we're now 2 years behind. And as all of you know, our challenge right now is retaining teachers, retaining high quality teachers. And if, there's this type of, they're getting behind on wage increases and the distrust associated with that, we're more likely to have teachers walk out the door. And it's very, very difficult already. So I really, really appreciate this getting on the agenda tonight. I just want to add, if I can give a quick plug for something else here. We are doing our school report cards right now, and that's something we actually have the power to do at the state board. Most of our stuff are just kind of almost like sense of the board resolutions. But hopefully they get great weight with the mayor, but we'll see. So we really appreciate reaching out to the ANCs and also you amplifying our voices on this because it's such an important issue. But we do have the ability to vote on school report cards. The parents in the ward have really reached out. We've done some great outreach on this. What I've heard from people that they want to see on the school report cards are AP and special courses that are offered within the schools, after school opportunities, including OSD programming that would be there, the availability of pre-K 3 and 4 within the schools, before care, after care opportunities at the schools, the availability of a full-time school nurse or the lack thereof, class sizes, which include student-teacher ratios, the experience of the teachers and the principals that are there, so making sure that there's stability within the workforce, and then lastly, special education opportunities at those schools. So that's what I've heard so far. But if there's other things that I may have missed or things that your constituents are reaching out to you with, please let me know. We're really excited to kind of design a dynamic format for this and hopefully it's useful to parents, as they make choices about schools and they can get some real information there that's helpful for them. Previously there was the STAR system and a lot of people felt that was just kind of not a very helpful way of doing things. So we want to put the information up that's really helpful to parents. And this is what I've heard so far. We are doing a resolution at the state board December 13th, which I may bring to you as well. We're really excited. Our council member here in Ward 3 has introduced legislation in support of universal out of school time programming, which I think is one of the most important things that we can do for kids, that are right now, wrestling with what to do, sometimes getting in trouble with the law, and then the truancy issues we're seeing in our schools where students aren't attending those. So, if I may, if we approve this in December, I'm going to modify it. I was excited to hear that that bill's now been introduced. We're going to certainly support that legislation, and then I'll transmit that resolution to you as well. I think it's something that would really go a long way to solving the youth crime issues that we see in the city, is getting these kids into positive activities between 3:30 and 6 o'clock. So I thank you for being here. Just one last thing and get off, because I know you guys have been very patient with me. I'm really concerned about the boundary study process, and I want to follow up with you all more on that. I haven't been impressed with the outreach so far. And this is the once in a decade opportunity to get things like pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds in our schools, to address school overcrowding in the ward. And, from what I'm hearing is, I've seen meetings scheduled at Man and Eaton. I'm very concerned that they're not solving either of those issues at all, that they're going to tell us that after waiting almost a full decade, for pre-K 3 and 4, that we're not going to get that. I went to the Ed Fest over the DC Armory, and you see all the elementary schools up there with pre-K for 3 through 5th grade, except Ward 3 schools, which have pre-K 4 through 5th. And the Universal Pre-K Act said that we would start in areas of highest need first, which absolutely made sense, or Title I schools. We would expand citywide, and if we got to places where we need more space, we would acquire that space. And we've just stopped, and they said, Ward 3, sorry, we're not gonna do what we said we were gonna do, which is to make 3 and 4-year-olds part of the educational system for our city, going pre-K 3 through 5th. And that's really disturbing. Like, you look at Stoddard right now, and they're not even though they're doing a modernization, they're not planning on putting pre-K 3 in there, and that's not right. And I'm just really disappointed in this process so far. And what we're hearing is they're gonna basically move kids from our most overcrowded schools to ones that are still overcrowded, and just shift them around, rather than trying to find new space and solve this problem. So I think it's gonna get parents outraged when they see what's there. I'm gonna certainly start vocalizing, but I would really love to partner with all of you on this, and and just try to work hard for a better process. I think this has not been transparent at all for our parents. So
Thank you. I want to invite you, you are welcome to, anytime we have a meeting, to be part of the, the elected representatives. So you're more than welcome. We know you're also a neighbor.
well, thank you, and I appreciate the time tonight. I was very fortunate. We had, for some reason, really got done fast at the state board tonight. So my meetings are usually first Wednesday. So I won't be here if I can though, because I love it.
Yeah, I can tell that GW has cut off the heat about
Well,
8 minutes ago.
I'll cut off my mic. I'm all set, but thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the time tonight, and I appreciate the support on the resolution and answer any questions.
The question I have is, you passed the resolution already at your board.
Yes, we did, yeah.
And we're just, my intent in writing the resolution is we're just adopting that. And
Yeah.
approving it.
It'd be great.
The one we have on our website isn't signed, but I know it was passed and I don't think it changed.
We can get you a signed copy if you like. Yeah.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah, as long as it hasn't changed.
Okay, yeah, no, it shouldn't have,
I don't think it-
and I don't think there was any amendments at the board meeting, so I think it's as is, so.
Commissioner Elkins, did you have a question?
Well, I wonder whether this is addressed to enough people. We're addressing it to the chancellor. Sounds to me like he's not particularly interested in doing it. I mean, are there other people that at least we might copy or send copies to?
Yeah, I think the mayor, deputy mayor for education would be 2 good ones to put on there. And then the council members as well. I mean, the council, a lot of people think the Board of Education is oversight of this. We have a very, very narrow oversight. It's actually the council that has oversight. So I think the 13 council members as well. I think they're notified usually when you do pass resolutions to the secretary's office, but informing them directly would probably be useful as well. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Friendly amendment?
The other thing I would say, just generally, Chairman, my children are no longer in the public school, so I'm probably the last person to suggest this, but we had a forum today on crime, which I found very useful. And I think a number of people attended virtually because of that. Is there an interest in having a forum on our educational system? I grant you it's the wrong day for you, but maybe there's some way you could work it so that we would announce it ahead of time and we would have more feedback. You'd have more back and forth with our constituents.
I'd be thrilled to attend that, and I think the timing would be perfect because we are approaching budget season. So that's like, this is the time to start getting the discussion going, and I will be here unless there's a conflict with my formal board duties, I'll make sure I come to it. So I love the idea of it. I would definitely attend it.
I mean, some of us might want to testify in front of the council on the budget. Members of the community may want to do that, but they need to be sort of energized.
Absolutely. So I look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you. I'm gonna make a motion. Motion on the floor is to approve this letter supporting the resolution passed by the State Board of Education on the teachers union amended to include the mayor, the deputy mayor of education, and all council members. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Horn seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
A unanimous minus Commissioner Colon Roosevelt. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Okay, our next item, we heard last month or two times ago from about the Washington Gas Project Pipes 3, and we have drafted a letter of opposition in the rate hikes associated with this. Commissioner Horn spent a lot of time reaching out to Washington Gas. I spent an email or two, but right before this meeting, they issued us a statement. It's long. Do we need to read this whole thing?
I think I would like you to read it, just not to make you read it, but just to see what their opinion is, because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it won't take that long.
Okay, all right, let's go. It's cold. I'm putting on my coat.
Commissioner Elkins got ahead of you. I'm already.
Okay, let me read it.
Yeah, why don't you go
Okay.
ahead?
All right. Washington Gas appreciates the opportunity to provide information regarding the company's Project Pipes program, which is a critical tool in our efforts to reduce pipeline integrity risk and to position the company to support the District of Columbia's climate goals. Based on the following facts and observations, Washington Gas respectfully recommends a no vote on the Project Pipes resolution. Background: Washington Gas Light Company was created by an act of Congress in 1848, originally chartered to serve the U.S. Capitol. In the 175 years since, the company has expanded its service territories to encompass the National Capital Region, including all of Washington, D.C. and portions of Maryland and Virginia. The company currently serves approximately 165,000 residential, commercial, and governmental customers in the district with safe, reliable, and secure natural gas service. Accelerated pipeline replacement history. In 2011, the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration of the United States Department of Transportation issued a call to action urging acceleration of efforts to replace aging gas system infrastructure. Federal officials encourage state regulators to adopt and approve special rate mechanisms to allow for accelerated infrastructure replacement of gas system materials such as cast iron and bare steel. In July 2013, the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners passed a resolution entitled Resolution Encouraging Natural Gas Line Investment and the Expedited Replacement of High-Risk Distribution Mains and Service Lines, which called on state regulatory commissions to, quote, consider sensible programs aimed at replacing the most vulnerable pipelines as quickly as possible, along with the adoption of rate recovery mechanisms that reflect the financial realities of the particular utility in question, end quote. In 2014, the Public Service Commission of the District of Columbia approved the first 5 years of the company's 40-year revised accelerated pipe replacement plan, AKA Project Pipes. Phase 2 of the project pipes was approved in 2018. The Public Service Commission of DC approves the company's annual Project Pipes project list, annual spend, and associated monthly surcharge, which appears on our customers' bills. The PSC of DC audits project pipes annually to ensure performance and accuracy in its cost. This section is on the benefits of project pipes. Here's a little statistic. Between the inception of Project Pipes in 2014 and the year end 2022, the company has reduced its leak rate in the district by 14%. But for the period from 2018 through 2022, the reduction is 45%. They give no citation for that, FYI. Project Pipes enhances the company's ability to take action in support of the district's GHG reduction commitments and the company's climate business plan. Project Pipes reduces fugitive emissions associated with the transport of natural gas. Project Pipes reduces risks associated with pipe failures and leaks that result in the accidental emission of methane. Project Pipes creates opportunities to accelerate the usage of efficient thermal gas applications that utilize less energy and emit fewer GHG emissions. Project Pipes results in a safer system by adding excess flow valves, thermal shutoff valves, and enabling upgrading low pressure systems to reduce outages from water infiltration. The phase 3 Project Pipes, the benefits they are claiming here, the company will replace 27.6 miles of main and change over 7,637 services in the district. The company will reduce GHG released from the company's distribution system by an estimated cumulative reduction total of 16,523 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions, equivalent of 3,536 total cars removed from district streets. The company will create over 1,600 full-time jobs and will add $342+ million in economic value to the district's economy, 93 million of that being in compensation. There's no citations here, by the way. The company will continue to pursue and hire diverse Project Pipes contractors and will continue to require all contractors and subcontractors to abide by the district's prevailing wage law. End of statement. I'm just going to start with a motion before we go to our discussion. Motion on the floor is to approve the resolution opposing the rate increase in connection with the acceleration of Project Pipes 3. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Horn. Opening it up to commissioners for discussion. Commissioner.
I'll go ahead and start. I was frustrated by this statement because I know that Commissioner Horn and Commissioner Duncan worked very hard to get somebody from Washington Gas here, but I don't think they addressed the statements in our resolution, and therefore I'm planning to vote in favor of the resolution.
I would echo those sentiments, and I don't want to speak from Commissioner Horn, but we felt like Washington Gas may have been a little too cute by half with us by trying to come to our January meeting, knowing full well the Public Service Commission could be voting December 20th on this. And as Ann Boyce had told us, and if she is here, please raise your hand.
She's here.
That they have a separate line item on your bill for the replacement of leaky pipes. And that this overall changing over of infrastructure is only going to prolong our reliance on methane gas here in the city. And I do believe this because these fancy new electric induction ranges are going to be all the rage all over Ward 3, and these rate increases to pay for this infrastructure that will have been approved is going to be the burden of the rest of the city. I do feel that is coming in the next 10 years. Ms. Du Bois, I am going to let any of the commissioners speak, and then maybe I even ask you questions if you have some short comments. We have no heat here.
I'm a
You had some natural gas.
So what if we vote to in opposition of this, like what other mechanisms have been proposed to address the leaking of GHGs and greenhouse gases? Because it seems to be a big problem. I've heard other campaigns that have been working on this, and college kids and other people moving around the city with sensors identifying gas leaks, and they're pretty prevalent. I mean, they're all over the place. And so if we were, to vote against this, is anybody aware of any other kind of solution to this? I know it sounds like we're afraid that we don't want to invest in new, infrastructure that's going to allow us to continue our dependence on natural gas, but do we just sit back and let the leakage?
Madam Chairman, can I speak to that? Because that actually ties into my comments. Commissioner Davis, I think the short answer is that the price we pay for Washington Gas today includes an allowance to repair gas leaks and repair the existing infrastructure. So this would be above and beyond that. This is not a if you're thinking about as a homeowner, do you caulk the windows that you have that are getting drafts, or do you just take out all your windows and replace them with new ones that you'll have to spend the next 50 years paying for, even though you may move out of the house in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because it's there are merits to both fixes, right?
And the city has said that they are looking to move out of greenhouse gases and be carbon neutral by 2045. So it seems counterintuitive to say that in 22 years we'll be carbon neutral and we will have significantly reduced our reliance on natural gas, and yet we're building an infrastructure that would support it for 50 years or more.
But we're
in addition to what's there.
These are improvements to an infrastructure to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. You understand my point? Is like
but I think that the juice is not worth the squeeze would be what I would say to that.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I just I was trying to get clarification on this, because seems like if we do nothing and we continue, if we don't meet those goals, and we're wind up with pipes that are still leaking and continuing, because natural gas is much worse greenhouse gas than just carbon dioxide alone. So, and I think they mentioned the equivalence of that. Seems like it is kind of a problem that the city does need to address, whether it be Washington Gas or Washington DC. But all right, thank you.
Everyone knows natural gas is methane gas. It is now contributing, I think, to half of our problematic emissions.
Yes.
I would like, I know that Ms. Du Bois had addressed that issue of the leaking pipes, and I know you've been waiting a really long time, and I appreciate that you're here, but if you could keep your comments brief, that would be great. Thank you. You are on screen now.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt if other commissioners had something to ask or say. I'd really like to commend Commissioner Norwalk for your statement just then. Thank you. And also to respond to what Commissioner Davis said, there are two PIPES programs that run in parallel. There is the Distribution Management Integrity Program, which chiefly repairs the leaks. They repair all of the emergency leaks, and they are in place to address leaks. Project PIPES is not a leak repair program. It is a pipe replacement program. So there's a distinction to be made. And I just want to point out that the DC government, representing the Department of Energy and Environment and the Office of the People's Counsel, who represent ratepayers, are opposed to PIPES 3. They feel it is a wasteful program, not in the public interest, and that the repairs could be taken care of by the Distribution Integrity Management Program without this exorbitant expenditure on pipe replacement that's going on. So does that help clarify, Commissioner Davis?
It does help. And I guess I just, based on what Commissioner Duncan was reading and the statement that they had, it sounded like that the fix that in order to get rid of the leaks, that new pipes are required.
Well, if you replace a leaky pipeline, it will take care of the leaks, but some of the PIPES 3 programs are not based on risk. And I don't want to get into too many details.
Sure.
I will say that Washington Gas makes a lot of claims about what they're doing, but neither their business plans nor these solutions they talk about, renewable natural gas and hydrogen blending, none of that has been approved by the Public Service Commission. None of it. And so when Washington Gas talks about how proactive they are and what a wonderful job they do, they're still waiting for approval for these plans that they discuss. It's misleading. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for attending to this.
Thank you. Commissioner Elkins.
I wonder whether we know whether Washington Gas has a climate change strategy that they have presented to the Public Service Commission and had approved. I mean, it seems to me that that would be an appropriate thing maybe to add to our resolution. Not only do we oppose the project Pipes Phase 3, but we believe that Washington Gas needs to have an aggressive climate change strategy.
Looks like Ann might.
Yeah, because the only,
May I speak to
the
that?
only reference is the city's plan.
So if I could go ahead just for a moment.
Yep, go ahead.
Washington Gas has submitted a climate business plan to the Public Service Commission, but the Public Service Commission has not approved it. There are also elements of what they would consider their climate strategy, the renewable natural gas and the hydrogen blending in the rate case that's also open before the Public Service Commission. None of this has been approved. So it's very shaky ground to ask ratepayers to bear the cost of, for instance, hydrogen blending into the fossil fuel mix, not a proven strategy. Again, this is why the DC government and the Office of People's Counsel are opposing actually both these elements of the rate case and Project Pipes. There are elements that Washington Gas are presenting that really need to be questioned. There need to be evidentiary hearings and a lot more information disclosed before the Public Service Commission can even decide.
I'm ready to call the question. All those in favor of the support of the resolution to oppose the Project Pipes 3. Commissioner Simkowitz, seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You know, we have a slight problem in that it doesn't get directed to anybody. Who do we send this to?
I think we said, wait, just 1 second. Are you abstaining from the vote, Commissioner Davis?
I was going to abstain, yes.
Okay, and 1 abstention. That's important for the record.
To the
We
PSC,
are
I think
sending
it would
to the
go.
Public Service Commission. And this will be addressed to the Public Service Commission.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
I'd like to something on there. And it'd be helpful if we learned the progress of what happens once we send it. Mr. Boyce can probably do that for us. Are you still there, Mr. Boyce?
The standard procedure would be that you would address it to all 3 commissioners, and then it would be filed in the Public Service Commission docket under formal case 1175. That's the Pipes 3 case. I can talk with Commissioner Duncan, with Chair Duncan, about how to go about that. You may or may not get a response from the Public Service Commission. There are a good number of filings in that case.
And would you be able to come back and let us know what happens?
Certainly. In fact, with this next open meeting in the middle of the month, there may be a ruling on Project Pipes 3. But yes, I'll be glad to follow up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again for your time.
And if you have additional information about the climate change strategy, et cetera, the larger issues, I certainly would be interested in hearing that. I assume my colleagues would as well.
Let me be in touch with you by email for that, if I could.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
All right, great, moving on. We have several letters on the Canal Road and Reservoir Road and Butcher Cove intersections. I am handing this over to Commissioner Elkins.
Just before we talk about it, can I just suggest that we vote on them? Is there any objection to voting on them as a block rather than doing them individually?
Any objection, Commissioner Elkins?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
If we vote on them as a block?
All the resolutions?
No,
Oh,
the
Canal
three.
Road one, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
So, once again, the Transportation Committee has been busy. In the case of this particular resolution, this is, Mr. Blumenthal who worked on this. And, has produced these three letters. And they basically are saying to the National Park Service, you did this planning, it's a good idea. It would certainly improve, the safety of the intersection between Reservoir and Canal. It would improve the congestion on Canal Road, and we would urge you to proceed. And of course, the letters are trying to go to other people who might be able to influence the National Park Service and perhaps even find some district money that could be used for that purpose. So I put forward these three letters for looking for a site.
Commissioner Simkowitz does a second. Any further discussion? These were extremely thoughtful and I thought great, so I'm just gonna throw that out there, thank you.
The Transportation Committee does good work.
100%.
And it's staffed by non-commissioners. I mean, I am a co-chair, but most of the work is done by non-commissioners.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, minus Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt. Moving on very quickly. Motion on the floor is for ANC to approve the letter for ANC3D to send to the zoning commission regarding AU statement on the Wesley Seminary PUD campus plan. Do I have a second? Commissioner Horn gives us a second. Do you want to take this one or do you want me to take this one?
Go ahead.
Okay, I skipped over Spring Valley Stormwater, so we have to get back to that. Okay, so this is an update. The zoning commission has met several times, and if we recall, the Wesley Seminary is trying to build a apartment building that is going to house only students on the border with American University. And they wanted, as part of their campus plan, to build this huge building to house AU students and Wesley students, and it would be a moneymaker for them to help them thrive in place. The zoning commission had said, no, you can't do this under the campus plan zoning regs, you got to do it under a PUD. Well, now the zoning commission has met several times. The record was essentially closed, but at a hearing, there was some consternation that American University had not weighed in. So last week, American University submitted a statement to Wesley. Wesley put it to the zoning commission. Commissioner Elkins and I co-drafted a letter. And AU statement is basically saying we have not seen, and I'm paraphrasing here.
Well, let me read it.
Yeah, you should read.
AU has not assessed the impact of the proposed Wesley development on our campus and community. Accordingly, AU does not have a specific position in support or opposition to the project.
So they're taking a position of neutrality. And Commissioner Elkins and I, our letter essentially said AU has not said there are any adverse impacts of this project on their campus. And ANC3D, the other institution that's mostly impacted by American University, has also said there's no major negative impacts and that we continue to support this project. And we also thought that maybe in the future, this is not what AU said, but when it comes to housing students on campus, perhaps AU would be able to use some of the numbers for undergraduates staying in this building towards their on-campus housing, which would help the surrounding communities and take the pressure valve off of the limited housing for students in our area. Does anyone have any questions? We are voting on a new letter for the whole commission, and later on in commission business, we're gonna be asking the commission to support the letter that Commissioner Elkins and I wrote.
So you're saying right now the vote is whether to endorse the,
Full commission letter, but not to endorse our letter. I felt like that was commission business since it was already sent and nobody can amend it because it's already been sent.
okay,
Second.
Second?
Are we ready to call the question? All right, all those in favor? No opposition. Thank you very much. We are going back to the thing I'd already crossed off the list in my haste. To the storm, this Spring Valley Storm Water Retrofit Project. Motion on the floor is to approve a letter to Interim Director of DDOT Sharon Kirschbaum. A letter outlining our major issues with the execution of this stormwater retention project and asking for a sit down. Do I have a second? Commissioner Simkowitz gives us a second. Did you all have a chance to read this? Do you have any questions? Most of this has to do with the maintenance of these bioretention fields that we've seen all over the city. I would like to offer a friendly amendment to include additional photos of the bioretention fields. There is a huge discrepancy. We have been told that these fields get maintained 4 times a year, and many of these curb cuts have no vegetation left. It is basically dirt and weeds, and I don't know enough to know if they're still functioning. And then occasionally you come on some that are very, very well maintained. Like the ones downtown are maintained by the Golden Triangle, BID. And I went over to Barnaby Woods. This is the neighborhood that's north of Chevy Chase. Like if you go to Nebraska Avenue till it ends, it's off there to the left. They have a bunch of these in their neighborhood. And many of them are these like barren wastelands. But then all of a sudden you come to a corner where it's clear that someone is maintaining them very well. And I have a feeling it's either a very astute neighbor or they're having their landscape company do it. Anyway, this is a project that is in Quentin and I's SMD. The Transportation Committee and George Saboris, who is a neighbor there, has done an unbelievable amount of work. And these letters are important because they are trying to proceed full steam ahead with this half-baked idea. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Next item on the agenda. Motion on the floor is to approve a response from ANC3D to the zoning commission in response to Trammell Crow's sidewalk cost estimate that they submitted to, I'm sorry, to the BZA, the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All right, background here. We had our BZA meeting, and once again, it did not go well for ANC3D's interests. The BZA was not inclined to make Trammell Crow pay for any of the additional sidewalks that we had agreed to in the MOU. And there was clearly some discussion among the commissioners that they used to do that all the time, where you require developers to improve things that wasn't on their property or fronting their property, as in the sidewalks here are, you know, not facing Trammell Crow's property, except in one small area. And they basically say they think it's out of their purview. However, they recognize that the MOU is in place. And after a lot of back and forth and us getting nowhere, Chairman Hill did say, it seems to me that if these sidewalks were affordable, Trammell Crow would be doing them and would be following more perhaps to what the spirit of the BZA order is. So they delayed the hearing to rule on this modification of significance, which we're also arguing in this statement. This is an appeal decision, not a modification of significance, but we added that at the end. Trammell Crow came in and said the sidewalks that we have asked for are going to be between 1.6 and $2 million. And our response here is to comply with the MOU, they don't have to do all these sidewalks. DDOT says you only need to build sidewalks on one side of the street. And we have highlighted a flat area on B Street that doesn't have a lot of obstructions and no retaining walls are required. A section across from the library that also is completely flat and has no retaining walls. And then third, and probably number 3 on the list, is on 48th Place from the corner of V over to W Street. And we think that these sidewalks will be cheaper, and we are hoping that the BZA will either agree with us and not grant the modification of significance, or clarify the language with our language, or to say this is an appeal and it has to wait till February. Did I get pretty much that?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Elkins.
I just thought of a possible friendly amendment. And that is that we asked the BZA to require Trammell Crow to do a detailed estimate of the sidewalks that we're recommending, that we think satisfy this, and we could even say, do what the provision of the BZA order says, which is to present to DDOT, for DDOT to decide whether these designs are appropriate. In other words, we're saying it's not $1.6 million. We don't know how much it is. Why doesn't the BZA ask Trammell Crow to do what the order said, which was to figure out how much it was, what needed to be done and deal with DDOT? I'm not sure quite how to word it, but it seems to me we ought to try to keep this going in order to get Trammell Crow to have to do a realistic estimate and to do really what they were told to do by the BZA, which was to work with DDOT on designing these sidewalks. And we've now told them this is a small set of sidewalks that makes some sense.
What do you think?
Well, the problem is that Chairman Hill closed the record, except for one fact, and that is the estimated cost. And all we can do is to argue with their estimated cost, where the purpose of that argument is to show that they don't have the facts for a modification of significance, and instead they need to wait for the appeal and argue the appeal, not the modification of significance.
But Commissioner Horner, couldn't we say, and still being responsive to the chair, BZA, that we think that this estimate is wrong because they made an estimate for the wrong sidewalk, that they everything in the kitchen sink in there, and instead they should go back and do an estimate of a reasonable set of sidewalks as we lay out. So
we do have a sentence in here that says these street segments, because I'm referring to my drawing. These street segments do not include places where the construction of retaining walls is required. Structures that likely drive up the applicant's cost estimate exponentially. We could just add a sentence in there that says
Travel Pro should go back and do a fair estimate of these.
Travel Pro,
That we believe meet the requirements of the BZA order.
should be asked to go back and estimate this scope that we believe meets the BZA order.
At least, and that might help on the appeal, because money is still gonna be an issue on the appeal. So to the extent we can get their estimate down to something, a few $100,000, means they don't have a strong case.
I would take that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay.
Again, a tremendous amount of work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Horn, Commissioner Duncan for this.
All those in favor? Any opposed, abstains? Nope, that was unanimous. Last item of official business is the hazardous crosswalk on New Mexico across from Forest Man. Commissioner Elkins, take it away.
Madam Chairman, I would ask the tolerance of my fellow commissioners to show a 5-minute video that basically illustrates the seriousness of this problem. The reason I want to do this is because I think both commissioners and our neighborhood need to be fully cognizant of how dangerous this situation is and how it needs to be fixed immediately. And I think that we will need the backing of the commission to, during the intervening weeks here, while we're not meeting, to essentially convince the Department of Transportation to fix this as part of the final construction of this bike path.
So I'm gonna insist we watch the movie because we're linking to it in the letter.
Yes. So
Okay.
if Bradley could bring up the video, and I will do the voiceover. It has no voice, there's no audio. So we're looking at a hazardous situation at the band school. It's at the intersection of Newark and New Mexico. This was brought to our attention by neighbors who were concerned about school children in particular. Stepping off the curb, even one step might be fatal, as you'll see. I was convinced that was a serious problem. Here's where the location is at the top. Is Nebraska Avenue, and the street coming down from the top is New Mexico, and you see Newark, the intersection there with Forest Man right there at that corner. Further on down is the doctor's building at 3301 New Mexico. That orients you where this is. We have children living in those neighborhoods to the right. So we've had New Mexico bike lane improvements, some of them having to do with pedestrians as well. It's been a good project in my view. We've got a protected bike lane, and other things, and pedestrian protection. But one of the things they did at this corner was put in a signalized left turn lane, which was justified. But what that did was force the traffic that wants to go through the intersection over to the curb lane. And you'll see that that's a problem. Here's the crosswalk. On the left-hand side, you see the playground, and we see the man's school. That gives you an orientation of how we're looking. You see the children would be walking and adults would be walking across in that direction. Looking from the other direction with the man's school behind you, you notice those poles. We're going to look at these poles. There are two utility poles. They're immediately to the left of the crosswalk. You can see right at the right-hand side, the line of where the crosswalk starts. They're right next to the curb, and people waiting to cross stand right next to the poles. And here's an indication of what the visibility is for someone standing next to those poles. You need to be really careful not to step off the curb. Before I was even aware of this problem, I almost did so myself. I certainly know better than to do that, but I would have been killed if I'd done it. Because a truck came right by at that time. So here I asked my wife, Betsy, to go and stand next to these poles, and I stood out in the traffic lane and took some pictures this morning. On the left-hand side, she's standing behind those poles. I don't think you can probably see her. And here she's standing away from the poles, further up toward Nebraska. I have a feeling unless you have very good eyesight, you can't see her either. This is what a driver is seeing. If you have a telescope, and this is, I blew up the picture, there she is in her red coat. I asked her to wear a red coat so people could see it. She's standing behind, getting ready to cross this is what a driver sees. Then I had her stand on this side of the pole, and you can see she's much more visible at that point to the driver. Now, are there any solutions to this? The answer is, of course. I'm going to show them a few of those. First one is to move the pole, utility poles, back a couple of feet. That would make a lot of sense. It's not that easy to achieve, of course, because it involves Petco. The second approach, and this is one that Betsy, my wife, gets credit for, is to move the crosswalk up toward Nebraska a few feet. The poles that are a problem are right behind the back end of that orange car. So this would move them up and you get more visibility. A better approach is where Betsy was standing in that last photograph, that is down the hill from those poles, and the crosswalk would come across from there. And I'm happy to say that our colleagues at the Department of Transportation you can take down the video if you would. That's the rest of what you see on YouTube. This is a YouTube. Our colleagues at DDOT who are building the bicycle lane are sympathetic to the fact that this is a problem that's been caused inadvertently by their putting in the bike lane. And they are looking at the third option in particular. That is the one that goes across so people would be standing in front of the poles instead of in back of them as the traffic comes up the hill. And so I'm concerned that although the staff is of goodwill, and I think in the last couple of days has sort of decided that this is something that the department should do, they have a number of bureaucratic hurdles to get over, shall we say. What I'm suggesting is a letter which would go to the director of the department asking for her support of getting this problem solved while they're still finishing up the construction of the bike lane. If we let this go past and they finish up the construction of the bike lane, it could be years before they do anything about it. And in fact, the first response we got from the department was, well, you're going to have to submit a transportation safety investigation, but of course, those are based on accidents. And so since there haven't been any accidents, you probably won't be able to get it done. And it's all like, wait a minute, this is silly. You created a problem and you want us to have an accident first so we can, of course, and I think the staff realizes that makes no sense. So I'm asking for a second on the letter that you'll see on the website, in which did we circulate it? I'm sorry, but we circulated it to it was written today. I wonder, Bradley, are you able to bring that up?
It's in the 06 December folder.
While we're doing that, may I ask a question? Was this a newly placed crosswalk, or is this been a problem that just hasn't been obvious until now?
That's a good point. I'll clarify. That crosswalk has been there. It has not, the telephone poles have not been a problem because that lane, which is now the through lane, was a parking lane. And so people would park there and the cars and trucks would go through the middle part of the street. Now they can't do that because they have to line up for the left turn, and that puts all the traffic right next to the curb, and I mean within a foot of it. You
Right, okay.
watch these
all right.
cars go.
Yeah, thank you.
Because it's a new problem, so to speak.
Those telephone poles also have traffic lights on them. And moving those poles is not something they're gonna spend money on. Moving the crosswalk is like the ideal thing.
Right.
I'm sorry, did you guys want to see the letter that we wanted shared?
Yes, actually, it's a bit long. Let's see what I can summarize it for you. It basically says this created inadvertently by your staff. We've had a wonderful working relationship with the staff. We like the bike lanes, but prior to putting in the bike lane, this was not a problem, as I've just now explained to the commissioner, and so we're asking that she give your staff all the support that is necessary to remedy this hazardous situation before the end of the construction of the protected bike lane and other traffic improvements. We welcome that DDOT has done in this project, but not at the expense of the life of a child or other pedestrian in what is now a very hazardous crosswalk. You give a second or not? No, okay. Now people know what the letter is.
Commissioner Pinfoot second the motion.
Okay.
Any other questions? Motion on the floor.
Can I amend the motion
Oh,
slightly?
yeah, please, you call the
That is to authorize you and me, Madam Chairman, to work with the department during the month of December. To try to bring this to resolution. In other words, that we have the backing of this commission and the authority to work through some kind of solution to this problem, whether it's the one that I've shown that they're looking at now, or some other solution that you're asking for the authority to negotiate something with the Department of Transportation.
I think that makes sense to not lock you into one specific solution, but into working with DDOT to find a viable solution that they'll support as well.
Right.
All right, motion on the floor is to approve the letter and the amendment that we have room to approve the number of solutions that meet the goal. All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? It is unanimous. We are officially done with our official business. Moving on to commission business. Well, does anyone have any new business?
Yep.
Okay, commission business. Approval of the annual report. I thought it looked great. So the motion on the floor right now is to approve the annual report. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Are we required to have one?
Yes.
We're required to have one, and when is it due?
December 1.
Oh, does it,
It's supposed to be this year, I believe. That's why they think they can make December 1.
okay,
This is written, we've always written ours on the year.
okay. All right, thank you, Brad, for putting that together, and thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for your work on that also. All those in favor of approving the report? Approved, any opposed? It was unanimous.
I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks
That's
really
just-
good.
I was shocked.
In the olden days, we probably would have gotten glossy copies, so.
We should give credit though to Christian Damiana, who did the report 2 years ago, and Brad and I are just copying.
Yes, we are using old work.
So the graphics, Christian gets credit for. The hard work of coming up with contents, having to do what resolutions we passed, Brad did all that work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Brad, for that.
Definitely.
We've already been over this topic, but because there was no amendments, because the letter's already been sent. Motion on the floor is to approve the letter sent by Commissioner Duncan and Elkins to the zoning commission regarding American University's statement on the Wesley PUD. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Horn seconds the motion. Does anyone have any questions about this? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Excellent, thank you. Approval of the minutes. I may table this till next month. We have the October minutes done. And if we wait to approve it in January, we'll have a chance to read the October minutes that have not been circulated. And then we could also have October, November, December. The October meeting was very short. We could show it on the screen, but I'm inclined to table. All right, motion to table approval of the minutes. We'll just move on.
Yeah.
Treasurer's report. Marilyn, did we write any checks?
We did not. Just one note, for the record, I've been in communication with our transcriptionist, with whom we've had some postal mail problems, and he and I have agreed to other payment mechanisms. So we will be doing electronic payments with him, starting the first of the year. He asked that we not start it this year to not mess up 1099 reporting, for different channels. So on the second of the year, he'll get his first check in this new program.
That's excellent. Thank you for doing that.
Our second to last item, I'm officially noticing our January 10th meeting. And I would like to propose we do this virtually. Any other comments?
Again, I think that we should do all of our meetings in person to give people the opportunity to come here, but you know, I'm not gonna stop if somebody wants to have a virtual meeting in January. It is cold in here, and I think we gotta withhold some of our payments to GW because if we.
Am I wrong? Did the temperature drop at 9? And I don't think the heat is off. I think that they lower the temperature. It's on a setting and it lowers at 9.
Yeah.
All right.
As your treasurer, I would highlight that it's not inexpensive to host these meetings. It's $425 a month. So to host meetings that nobody from the public attends does not seem to me to be a good stewardship of the ANC resources.
Agreed. Motion on the floor is to adjourn.
Post office.
Oh, the post office box. Thank you. We would
Also
like
ways to save the ANC money. Perfect.
Yeah. We would like to do away with the post office box and use the address for whoever's chairman as the official mailing address.
And just some color commentary on that. We're already doing that for the bank statements because our bank will not mail to a post office box. So, Mr. Elkins, do you check the post office box? Have we gotten any other mail to that address?
I'm not in charge of that.
The secretary is. We
Oh,
don't have a
secretary. Okay. So
The secretary was checking it until he left the city. So, but I think what we can do is have it for a few months, they will forward the mail to an address. But after that, we won't get it and we'll need to notify the city that we have a new address. And by that time, we will have elected officers in January. And if whoever's chair is willing to have it come to that person's address, then that is a good address. Otherwise, somebody else, some other commissioner can do it. But we do need to see what people send. I don't think they send very much. Most of it's electronic. I think our secretary was finding 1 or 2 things every time he went.
It could be stuffed full now. I don't know how often, but I need to go. I'll go over there. He gave me the key, so I have access to it now. Motion on the floor is to do away with our post office box and move our official mailing address to the home of the chair or another commission designee. Or,
And this would take, it wouldn't take place today, it would take place after a new election, because because we have a new, board next time, is that correct?
yeah,
But the problem is the box,
It expires.
it expires in the next couple of days, but they will forward it. Ryan, I used to have it forwarded to me in Humper's, not Oklahoma, the Harvest Ferry, and that worked for a while, so it will get us through January.
Okay.
all those in favor? Any unanimous,
That
thank
saves
you.
us $150 a year.
More than that, 200 and something.
There
Um,
wasn't another Wesley seminary thing.
we did two,
Okay.
we did our letter, and then we did the one that we had sent earlier, and that actually legally makes a difference, so that's great, thank you for that. Motion on the floor is to adjourn. Seconded by Commissioner Simplitz, all those in favor? I would like to thank all members of the public who have stayed tuned in. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you all. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, Brian.